Chapter 756. What Lu Ping had guessed back in the swamp was correct. The Green Fox 9 bandits were indeed planning to set up a base of operations and end their wandering life of training. In order to set up a base of operations, the first thing they had to consider was the spirit vein they needed for training. This was also why the Green Fox 9 bandits had tried to steal the small spirit vein Lu Ping had limited to. However, the Green Fox 9 bandits seemed to have forgotten that they were bandits after all, bandits of the training world. Even though they were injured and rarely stained with blood, they still had many enemies. A base of operations did not give them a peaceful life of training, but rather a place that they could not break free from. Add to that the fact that the Green Fox 9 bandits had robbed quite a lot of good stuff when they were roaming around and committing crimes all those years ago, and the Green Fox 9 bandits themselves naturally had no use for these things. As such, the rest of the items were naturally stored away by them. As a result, the rumor that the Green Fox 9 bandits didn't exist became a hot topic in the training world of the plains and Hebei. Countless enemies of the past were like cats that had smelled fish. After hearing that the Green Fox 9 bandits intended to go into seclusion, they all searched the training world of Hebei and the plains for traces of the Green Fox 9 bandits. In the end, the Green Fox 9 bandits' base of operations was found, and the hunt for the Green Fox 9 bandits began. This was especially true for the Dharma adept of the Diligent Snow sect, who had heavily injured the Green Fox 9 bandits in the battle that had made them famous. After the Green Fox 9 bandits had set up the 9 Palace Clear Void formation, they had first killed a few late core forging disciples of the Diligent Snow sect and then heavily injured the Diligent Snow sect's Laozu, which had directly led to the collapse of the Diligent Snow sect. It could be said that the Diligent Snow sect's Laozu and the Green Fox 9 bandits had a deep-seated hatred that was equivalent to the destruction of the entire sect. Among the cultivators of the plains and Hebei who had chased after the Green Fox 9 bandits, this Diligent Snow sect's Laozu had been the one who had put in the most effort. While Master Xintian explained the matter regarding the Cyan Fox 9 bandits to Lu Ping, he failed to notice that Lu Ping's expression had turned unsightly. The Cyan Fox 9 bandits were chess pieces that Lu Ping wanted to obtain. Lu Ping had already considered them carefully. Moreover, the leader of the 9, Qing Hu, was the foster sister of the spirit-taming sect's direct disciple, Reverend Sang Yu. With this relationship, it might be an opportunity for Zhenling to get closer to the spirit-taming sect in the future. Moreover, Reverend Sang Yu owed Lu Ping a favor. Although Lu Ping had used treasures such as the spirit-clearing pill and the green jade glass liquid to make up for this favor, both Reverend Sang Yu and Lu Ping knew that saving Reverend Sang Yu from the brink of destruction was not something that could be repaid with treasures. When Lu Ping arrived at the base of the Cyan Fox 9 bandits in a secluded valley in Hebei's cultivation world, Lu Ping couldn't help but shake his head when he saw the devastation of the small village. The small village had long since been reduced to ruins. Black ash from the fire could be seen everywhere. Lu Ping could clearly sense traces of the surrounding defensive formations being destroyed. At the same time, he could also sense that the Cyan Fox 9 bandits had recently changed. All of this showed that the Cyan Fox 9 bandits had put a lot of thought into this base of theirs. Lu Ping didn't know how many of the Cyan Fox 9 bandits could survive the pursuit of the 2 cultivation worlds. However, although Lu Ping valued the Cyan Fox 9 bandits, he only cared about their leader, Qing Hu. Although the other 8 were somewhat capable, Lu Ping didn't think much of them. As far as he was concerned, it was fine as long as he could save Qing Hu in the end. Lu Ping opened the door to the House of Gold and let Samling out. Lu Bai and Lu Ling looked around for a while before saying to Lu Ping, "Father, they've gone northeast." Among the 9 bandits, the 7th and 9th brothers had been bitten by Lu Bai and Lu Ling. Naturally, the scent of these 2 people was very clear. Furthermore, the snake venom in their wounds had been left behind by Lu Ping. As long as these 2 people did not die, Lu Ping would be able to find the Cyan Fox 9 bandits' tracks. In a place where no one else went, Qin Shuelaozu was looking at the Cyan Fox 9 bandits, who had been blocked by him and his good friend, Nanhualaozu. The greatest shame of his life was that he had been tricked by these 9 people. Not only had he been seriously injured, but the Diligent Snow sect that he had built up had also been destroyed. He had become the laughingstock of the Dharma adepts on the plains. Qin Shuelaozu had been plotting to kill the Cyan Fox 9 bandits, and he had been secretly tracking the Cyan Fox 9 bandits' tracks. However, he did not have much confidence in his own abilities. Thus, after finding out where the Cyan Fox 9 bandits were hiding, he had no choice but to team up with Nan Hualaozu. Qin Shuelaozu and Nan Hualaozu actually did not have a very deep relationship. It was just that although the Cyan Fox 9 bandits were famous, they were not hated by anyone. There were not many Dharma adepts who would be willing to make a move against a few juniors. This Nan Hualaozu could be said to have come looking for him. The two of them naturally hit it off. Nan Hualaozu was also helpless. How could he not know that if word of what he had done were to spread, he would definitely be looked down upon by other adepts of the same level? However, he was extremely helpless. 3 years ago, the Huayu sect had been mysteriously attacked by 2 Dharma adepts, and more than half of the Huayu sect's assets had been taken away. The Huayu sect, which had originally been considered wealthy among the small powers in the Hebei training world, had suddenly become penniless. In addition, in the Yingyu swamp, the Huayu sect's #1 expert, Qing Hualaozu, had unexpectedly fallen, and the Huayu sect's power had dropped even further. Now, in the words of mortals, the Huayu sect was already so poor that they could barely eat. In the past 3 years, the Huayu sect had not taken in a single disciple. The Huayu sect had not been able to guarantee the training resources of the sect's adepts, and everyone was living in poverty. Many of the disciples had not been determined, and had already found an excuse to leave the sect to seek their own future. This was something that the 3 Laozu of the Huayu sect were naturally anxious about. Thus, when they heard that the Cyan Fox 9 bandits might have some treasures on them, Nan Hualaozu, as a Dharma adept, had come running over. He was prepared to join forces with Qin Shuelaozu to steal the treasures that had originally belonged to the core forging adepts of the Cyan Fox 9 bandits. Cyan Fox, where do the 9 of you think you can escape to now? If you know what's good for you, then hand over all the loot you've stolen from others over the years. Perhaps Nan Hua and I will give you a quick and painless end. If you still want to resist stubbornly, then we have the means to make you beg for death. Qin Shuelaozu looked at the 9 despairing people in front of him, and his heart was filled with joy. The trauma that had been left in his heart by the 9 of them all those years ago seemed to have disappeared. After the Cyan Fox 9 bandits' base had been discovered, their pursuers had quickly arrived. After a series of battles, the 9 of them had used the power of the 9 Palaces' clear void formation to repel most of the pursuers. However, in the end, they were still blocked by the 2 Dharma adepts in front of them. As they fought, the 9 of them had suffered varying degrees of injuries, and the inner yuan in their bodies did not have much time to recover. Under normal circumstances, the 9 of them might have been able to use the 9 Palaces' clear void formation to resist for a while, and perhaps 1 or 2 of them would have been able to escape. But now, the 9 of them seemed to have the will to die at the same time. Boss, let's fight it out with them. In a while, the few of us will hold them back. Boss, you take the opportunity to escape and avenge us in the future. After Qing Hu and Qing Lang had discussed with the other siblings, they turned to Qing Hu and said, "Don't talk nonsense. If anyone wants to leave, it should be 7th sister and 9th sister. They are the weakest, and they won't be of much help even if they stay. After we escape, we should first go to Yingshan Immortal Academy to find that Lu Xianping to get rid of the snake venom in his body. If possible, we should see if we can beg him to help our 2 sisters in Yingshan Immortal Academy. It's a pity that 8th brother is injured. Big sister, I won't leave. I want to be with everyone." Without waiting for Qing Hu to finish speaking, 8th brother, who was at the side, said anxiously, "Let 7th sister and 9th sister leave. I'm already in this state. I can't leave." "We won't leave either." 7th sister and 9th sister also protested. "Nonsense, what do you know? Today, the 9 of us have fallen. Only if one of you survives will you have any hope of revenge in the future. With the name of the 9 bandits, you will still be hated by the world of practitioners. Only by joining a sect and obtaining the protection of a sect can you have a decent life in the future." Qing Hu reprimanded in a stern voice. "Then why do we have to beg that person? That person is very despicable. He used snake venom to force us. He's a complete villain." 9th sister said carefully. She still held a grudge against Lu Ping's expression that day. 7th sister also said, That's right. Big sister, let's not go beg him. If we die, we will die together. Qinghu looked at her two youngest sisters helplessly. Usually, they had many big brothers and big sisters to take care of them, so they had no idea about the viciousness of the people in the cultivation world. Now is not the time to talk about this. If Big Brother saying you hadn't gone to challenge the experts of the Yuan clan, I wouldn't have entrusted my two sisters to a small sect like Ingshan Immortal Academy. It's a pity that the cultivators of the spirit-taming beast sect come and go without a trace. Even if I wanted to ask this sworn brother for help, it's impossible. That spirit-taming beast sect has never accepted disciples with skills. What Qinghu didn't say was that her sworn brother, Reverend Sangyu, had a very high evaluation of Lu Ping and had some guesses about Lu Ping's origins. That guess was also the reason why Qinghu decided to ask her two sisters to join Shan Immortal Academy. Nanhua Laozu looked at Qinshue Laozu in disdain. Qinshue Laozu, who was intoxicated by success, wanted to establish a sect and become its ancestor? It was no wonder that after she had been defeated, the sect had immediately scattered. Qinshue Laozu naturally didn't know that she was being looked down upon once again. She looked at the 9 people in front of her, who were standing in formation and whispering to each other. Chapter 757. It all depends on whether these 9 people know how to cooperate. If they can react immediately after I attack, perhaps I can save these 9 people from the hands of the 2 Dharma laws Laozu. If they work well together, perhaps these 2 Laozu will be at a disadvantage. After fighting with early Dharma adepts several times and escaping unscathed, sometimes even gaining the upper hand, Lu Ping's mentality had changed a lot. In Lu Ping's eyes, Dharma adepts were no longer high and mighty, untouchable beings. Big sister, don't say any more. You saved our lives all those years ago. If we live together. If we die together. It's not a waste of our brotherhood. The youngest 9th sister was being forced into a corner by Green Fox, and she began to throw a tantrum. This caused Green Fox to feel a surge of warmth in her heart. Big sister. This time, it was the usually rational Green Wolf who spoke. He smiled bitterly and said, "Actually, we all know that the one who has the highest chance of escaping is you, big sister. You are the strongest, and if you manage to escape, you are the only one who can avenge us in the future. As for the others, whether it be 7th sister, 9th sister, Qinghu, or me, it would be a miracle if we could reach the 9th level of the core forging stage. We would not even dare to dream of entering the Dharma stage. If that is the case, what is the point of 7th sister, 9th sister, or even the few of us escaping?" Qinghu looked at her siblings, and her eyes reddened. She waved her hand fiercely and said, "All right, since we don't intend to run anymore, then let's fight it out with these 2 Dharma adepts. Even if we die, we won't let these 2 off easily." Brother Qinshue, Nanhua Laozu could not take it anymore and said, "Since these 9 people are so stubborn, we should quickly deal with them to prevent any more trouble. As for the treasures they have stolen over the years, we will leave one of them alive and use the soul-searching technique." Her casual words revealed her indifference to life and death. Qinshue Laozu smiled awkwardly and said, "You are right, brother. I originally thought that the heavens were kind. Qinshue, old ghost, hand over your life." Before Qinshue Laozu could get carried away, the Cyan Fox 9 bandits, 9 Palaces clear void formation, suddenly activated. Cyan Fox brandished her mountain-splitting axe, and with the support of the Dao Soldier formation's combined power of 9 people, she chopped it down at Qinshue Laozu's head. Qinshue Laozu's expression was extremely ugly. Back then, he had suffered a great loss under the axe of these 9 people. It was not that he could not withstand the blow, but he felt that the loss outweighed the gain. However, he had been constantly thinking about his defeat all these years and was still unable to think of a way to break out of it with his current strength. Once he retreated, he would be completely surrounded by the 9 Palaces clear void formation and repeat the tragedy from back then. Therefore, he had to receive this blow. Only by receiving this blow from Cyan Fox would Qinshue Laozu be able to gain the upper hand in the 9 Palaces clear void formation and escape the restraints of the formation at any time. Of course, with Qinshue Laozu's strength, it was still impossible for him to break through the Dao soldier formation and defeat the Cyan Fox 9 bandits. This was also why Qinshue Laozu had joined forces with Nan Laozu. Of course, Qinshue Laozu could retreat first and then fall into the formation to wait for Nan Laozu's rescue. With the two of them working together, the Cyan Fox 9 bandits would be defeated even faster. However, once he fell into the formation, Qinshue Laozu's life would no longer be in his hands. Qinshue Laozu had been in the cultivation world for hundreds of years. This time, he had only joined forces with Nan Laozu because of their mutual benefits. How could he put his life in Nan Laozu's hands? Qinshue Laozu's magic treasure was a spirit-nurturing ice jade bracelet. The jade bracelet flew high into the air, and as Qinshue Laozu made hand seals, ice walls condensed in front of the jade bracelet. 12 ice walls stood in front of him. The giant axe shattered 8 of them in a row, but its momentum did not weaken. Qinshue Laozu gritted his teeth, and the remaining 4 ice walls suddenly exploded. Ice shards filled the sky, and the giant axe was sent flying. Qinshue Laozu's face was pale. Clearly, this divine ability had consumed a lot of his energy. Daoist Nanhua, if you don't act now, when will you? Qinshue Laozu called out loudly. At this time, after Qinshue Laozu's attack on the Green Fox 9 bandits had been nullified, the 9 of them, who had already expended a lot of energy in the pursuit, looked even more exhausted now. If Nanhua Laozu attacked them from behind, the Green Fox 9 bandits would definitely be doomed. Nan Laozu naturally would not let go of such an opportunity. The flying sword in his hand split into 9 and shot towards the 9 of them, intending to kill them all. At this time, Lu Ping was in a dilemma. At this time, Qinshue Laozu was already engaged in a full-on battle with the Green Fox 9 bandits and had no time to pay attention to anything else. This was the best time for Lu Ping to attack Qinshue Laozu. Lu Ping was confident that once he attacked, he would be able to severely injure Qinshue Laozu. If the Green Fox 9 bandits continued to hold on to Qinshue Laozu, Lu Ping might even have a chance to kill this Dharma adept. However, at this time, Nan Laozu had already attacked from behind the Green Fox 9 bandits. Even if Lu Ping could severely injure Qinshue Laozu, the Green Fox 9 bandits would definitely suffer heavy casualties. At the end of the day, how many of them would be left alive? Although Lu Ping only cared about Green Fox 9 bandits, at the last moment, Lu Ping still sighed and changed his mind. Perhaps it was because Lu Ping could already tell that the Green Fox 9 bandits had already decided to die. In this day and age, there were very few friends and brothers in the world of martial arts who could entrust their lives to each other. Wind and clouds gathered in the sky. Water vapor gathered together and formed a gloomy dark cloud above Ancestor Nanhua's head. Golden and purple lights flashed, disappeared, and flashed again in the dark cloud. A huge pressure descended from the sky. Nan Laozu, who had just raised his own treasure and was about to join forces with Qinshue Laozu to annihilate the Green Fox 9 bandits, suddenly stopped what he was doing. Instead, he used his treasure to protect himself and looked up at the sky. Which friend is playing such a joke on me? Nan Laozu's face darkened. He could not figure out what this hidden opponent's goal was. Could it be that he wanted a share of the loot from the Green Fox 9 bandits? Could the Green Fox 9 bandits be worthy of the attention of 3 Dharma adepts? The dark clouds rolled, and the dull thunder ropes were already brewing. Bean-sized raindrops fell from the sky like powerful hidden weapons, smashing a 3-foot-deep hole in the ground. However, although the dark clouds above his head were huge, the raindrops only covered a few feet around Patriarch Nanhua. The art of traveling through clouds and summoning rain. Although this technique was not very powerful, it was difficult to deal with and almost impossible to dodge. The only way to deal with it was to take it head-on. Once it was taken head-on, it would be a never-ending process of wearing down the opponent until he was completely exhausted. Of course, this spell was also a way to conceal their tracks. Within the range of the dark clouds, even if Lu Ping and the others fought fiercely, as long as the art of moving clouds and summoning rain wasn't broken, no one outside the spell's range would be able to detect what was going on inside. However, even Lu Ping himself didn't know how powerful the skill would be if other factors were added into the process of casting it. The dark clouds flashed with all sorts of colors that made one's heart palpitate. The 7-colored light suddenly bloomed, forcing back the darkness around them. Before the sound of thunder could be heard, 7 bolts of lightning had already descended from the sky. Een lightning of gunmetal, een lightning of wood, een water. Although each type of een lightning was not very powerful to a Dharma adept, the 7 types of een lightning were enough to make Nan Laozu's heart palpitate and think of something else. But whether it was Nan Laozu or Lu Ping, they both seemed to have forgotten that this was the power of the heavens. When the 7 treasures Thunder Calabash and the art of traveling through clouds and summoning rain were used together, the two actually produced a very compatible effect. At this time, whether it was the art of traveling through clouds and summoning rain or the 7 types of een lightning from the 7 treasures Thunder Calabash, the power produced was far greater than either of them. In fact, it was as if the two were simply added together. Are you a practitioner of the Yuan family? As soon as Nan Laozu said this, he knew that he had said the wrong thing. Although the practitioners of the Yuan family were skilled in all sorts of lightning techniques, they did not use other techniques. Nan Laozu's shout not only shocked Qin Shui, who was being surrounded by the Green Fox 9 bandits, but also the Green Fox 9 bandits themselves. The endless raindrops were like countless boulders smashing into Nan Laozu's various defenses. Although the 7 bolts of lightning were blocked by Nan Laozu, the power of the technique still affected Nan Laozu's body. Nan Laozu felt as if the inner yuan in his body had met with snow under the sun. The numbing electricity began to dissolve the inner yuan in Nan Laozu's body. Nan Laozu's inner yuan began to circulate, dissolving the discomfort. At the same time, Nan Laozu looked up at the dark clouds above his head. The clouds were flashing with different colors, as if they were preparing for the next lightning technique. Nan Laozu coldly snorted, and the magic treasure in his hand shot up into the sky. Nan Laozu then reached out with his hand, and a giant hand formed from spiritual energy reached deep into the dark clouds, as if trying to grab something from within. However, Nan Laozu's expression immediately changed. The dark clouds in the sky disappeared as he reached out with his hand. However, Qin Shui Laozu, who was surrounded by the 9 bandits, suddenly let out a miserable cry. Ancestor Nanhuan knew that he'd fallen for his opponent's ploy to lure him away. When he turned around, he saw that Ancestor Qin Shui had been suppressed by a huge mountain formed from a talisman weapon. The 9 thieves had taken advantage of this opportunity to beat the old man's defensive treasure until it was on the verge of collapse. Qin Shui Laozu looked in Nan Laozu's direction, as if to ask for help from Nan Laozu. At the same time, the inner yuan in his body began to circulate. In just a moment, the practitioner weapon on his body collapsed, and a giant mountain ape appeared behind Qin Shui Laozu, as if to summon his dharma to fight with all his strength. However, in that split second of hesitation, 2 balls of 5-colored light shot towards Ancestor Qin Shui's back one after the other. Watch out! Nan Laozu had just cried out when the 2 light balls pierced through his magic treasure, Qin Shui Laozu's protective qi, and the newly summoned mountain ape dharma. When the 2 light balls reappeared, they were hovering in front of Qin Shui Laozu. Feeling the pervasive power of the Yingtian River, a genius swordsman of the Yingtian sect created this seeping water sword technique. Later on, it was perfected by generations of cultivators of the Yingtian sect, and the power of this sword technique gradually increased. In the end, it became another set of water attribute divine sword techniques of the Yingtian sect. Nan Laozu could use the sword light to weave a wall of sword light to block Lu Ping's attack. Lu Ping could use it to test if his seepage sword spell could find the flaw in Nan Laozu's sword skill and use the sword light to penetrate the wall of sword light. By the time Nan Laozu realized that Lu Ping was using him to practice, Lu Ping's seepage sword spell had already penetrated Nan Laozu's defense. The tiny sword light was like needles stabbing into Nan Laozu's skin. After all, he was facing a Dharma adept. Even though Lu Ping's seepage sword spell had already reached a certain level, after penetrating Nan Laozu's sword light wall, he was at the end of his rope. Nan Laozu's protective spell was activated, and the countless tiny sword lights were shattered. But it was too late for Nan Laozu. The Green Fox 9 bandits knew that they had strong reinforcements. The sudden change from being controlled by someone else to controlling the lives of others made the 9 extremely excited. Who would be willing to die now that they had a chance to live? With Lu Ping suppressing them from the side, the Green Fox 9 bandits easily set up the 9 Palace Clear Void formation and surrounded Nan Laozu in it. A strange wave spread out from the ancient Dao soldier formation, directly sealing off the surrounding space. Even if a Dharma adept used his Dharma and space powers, he would not be able to break through the seal of this formation. Nan Laozu cursed under his breath. He was a very decisive person. After realizing that he had been tricked, he immediately summoned his Dharma. Nan Laozu's Dharma was a giant turtle, but this turtle had a tail that was as long as a snake's. With a sweep of its giant tail, it knocked away Green Fox's giant axe. At the same time, its 4 limbs and head retracted into the turtle's shell. Before Lu Ping's flying whirlwind kill could reach Nan Laozu, it was dispelled by the giant turtle Dharma. Lu Ping, who was hidden in the cloud-light 5 elements robe, knew the power of the Dharma. He raised the landslide in his hand, and it transformed into a giant silver seal in the sky. It descended towards Nan Laozu's Dharma, which had already shrunk into its shell. Nan Laozu reached out a finger, and the landslide was immediately stopped in midair by a huge force. Then, the giant turtle Dharma, which had been hiding in the shell, suddenly began to roll, crashing into the 9 Palace Clear Void formation that had trapped Nan Laozu. Without the protection of the Dharma, Nan Laozu's own power would undoubtedly decrease greatly. But now, Nan Laozu could not care less. He knew his own power. Although he was much stronger than Qin Shui Laozu, it was still limited. Now that he was surrounded by the Green Fox 9 bandits and the person hidden in the 5-colored clouds, if he did not escape soon, Qin Shui Laozu, who was now lying on the ground, would be a good example. Nan Laozu's plan was that even if he was heavily injured without the protection of the Dharma, as long as the Dharma could create an opening in the 9 Palace Clear Void formation, then it would all be worth it. Nan Laozu's plan was not wrong, but he was taking it for granted. Without the protection of the Dharma, Nan Laozu would not only be heavily injured, but he could also be killed. Seeing Nan Laozu give up the protection of the Dharma, Lu Ping made a decision. His face suddenly became serious, and he pushed forward with his hand. A giant golden hand suddenly appeared in front of Nan Laozu. The hand clenched as if it wanted to crush Nan Laozu. The Dharma treasure flying sword in Patriarch Nan Hua's hand slashed horizontally in an attempt to cut off the palm. Unexpectedly, there was a chi-chi sound as the flying sword sliced through the palm. A thick wisp of smoke rose from the flying sword. Patriarch Nan Hua's expression changed. This flying sword was a spirit-nurturing flying sword that he had used for many years. When he saw the mottled spots on the flying sword, he couldn't help but feel his heart ache. At this time, Nan Laozu did not dare to fight against the giant hand that Lu Ping had pushed forward. He quickly retreated, but the protective astral energy around Nan Laozu's body was torn apart like tofu by the giant hand. Nan Laozu's body flashed with light. In just a moment, the protective astral energy that had collapsed was once again propped up. Nan Laozu's face was unusually ugly as she looked at Lu Ping, who was surrounded by the colorful clouds. 10,000 poison serum? This technique, called one hand to hold the heavens and earth, was just a small technique that Zhenling had passed down. Lu Ping saw that this technique might be useful in the world of training, so he used it to train. But today, after Lu Ping filled the giant hand with the 10,000 poison serum, under the control of Lu Ping's water control technique, he did not expect it to have such a miraculous effect. Even the protective astral energy of a Dharma adept would have a miraculous effect, and he almost suffered a great loss. Boom! The giant turtle Dharma slammed into the 9 Palace Clear Void Matrix. Cracks appeared in the air, and then closed up again. The Cyan Fox 9 bandits were all knocked back by the force of the collision. 7th sister, 8th sister, and 9th sister, who were the weakest among them, fell to the ground on their butts. Luckily, with Green Fox, Green Tiger, and Green Wolf, who were the strongest among them, the 9 Palace Clear Void Matrix did not break. Whoosh! Just as the turtle Dharma slammed into the 9 Palace Clear Void Matrix, Lu Ping's attack came again. The flying sword in Nan Laozu's hand was blocked by the Autumn Dew sword, and Lu Ping's flowing sword followed. It was like a vast river falling from the 9 heavens. Because Lu Ping had observed the lightning river during Lao Tzu's tribulation, he had gained enlightenment. This made the Great River Flow's East Sword technique very different from the original one, but its power was not the least bit weaker. Furthermore, this sword technique that brought along a river of the heavens could be seen everywhere. Not only was there the cold sword light and sword chi, there were also sparks of lightning. It seemed that he had greatly underestimated the seven treasure thunder gourd. The seven treasures thunder calabash hovered above Lu Ping's head. Thunders that were like heavenly rivers of lightning merged into the Great River Flow's east and swept toward Patriarch Nan Hua. Gotcha! Nan Laozu seemed to have seen the danger. From the shell of the giant turtle Dharma, a giant turtle head popped out and slammed into the nine-palace clear void matrix. This time, it finally opened a gap in the nine-palace clear void matrix. Poochie. This was because the internal organs of the Azure Fox 9 bandits had been affected and shaken the instant the Nine Palaces clear void formation was destroyed. Coupled with the fact that they'd been continuously fighting their pursuers for the past few days, they were like an arrow at the end of its flight. So, internal injuries were naturally unavoidable. Poochie. Nan Laozu also coughed up blood. Under the unparalleled power of Lu Ping's Great River Flow's East Sword technique, Nan Laozu finally gave Lu Ping an opportunity to send him flying with a flowing sword. But at this time, Nan Laozu had a happy expression. Using the power of Lu Ping's attack, he fled out of the Nine Palace Clear Void Matrix. Want to run? But it was too late. Chapter 759. He wanted to run, but it was too late now. The ninth-tier white jade lotus appeared in front of Lu Ping's chest. As the petals opened, the lotus grew from the size of a fist to 3 feet wide. When the lotus had completely bloomed, a beam of light shot out from the stamens, forming a beam of light in midair that shot towards Nan Laozu. At this time, Nan Laozu had already escaped from the gap that the Dharma giant turtle had created. The long sword in his hand slashed forward, and a door appeared in front of Nan Laozu. However, just as Nan Laozu was about to experience the joy of escaping, Nan Laozu, who had been about to step into the door, suddenly opened his eyes wide. His face was still frozen in a gloomy expression, but his eyes were filled with fear. A pale white light surrounded Nan Laozu's body. It was this beam of light that had shot out from the white jade lotus that had completely frozen a Dharma adept in midair. The door in front of him shook and then closed up again. Nan Laozu's inner yuan surged from within his body, and the white light immediately dissipated. However, Nan Laozu's face was not the least bit happy. Instead, his face was full of despair. A black shadow flashed by, and Nan Laozu's head flew into the air. When the black shadow stopped, a sharp screeching sound came from behind the black shadow. Qing Hu's giant axe spun in the air. Just now, when Lu Ping had used the white jade lotus to freeze Nan Laozu, Qing Hu had used her own giant axe to chop off Nan Laozu's head. But how could a Dharma adept die just because his head was chopped off? Without waiting for Nan Laozu's corpse to fall from midair, Nan Laozu's chest suddenly exploded. A giant turtle broke through Nan Laozu's core space, and with a sweep of its long tail, it fled in the southwest direction. Not good. Quickly destroy the Dharma, or this Nan Laozu will be able to reincarnate. If we don't kill the snake, we will definitely be harmed in the future. Qing Hu exclaimed from the side. However, the Green Fox 9 bandits had just fought with Patriarch Nan Hua's Dharma power, and they no longer had any spiritual power left. It was only because of Green Fox's talent that she was able to conserve her last attack. She did not know that the reason why Dharma adepts were called Dharma adepts was because the Dharma power that was formed in their core space was the embryo of their immortal soul. A seed was not so easily destroyed. Qing Hu also knew that there was no hope for her brothers and sisters. Her shout was actually directed at Lu Ping, whose face was concealed by the 5 elements cloudy robe. However, just as Qing Hu's words left her mouth, a strange sound of thunder came from the sky. Qing Hu looked towards the source of the sound and saw a 7-colored bolt of lightning descending from the sky. The Dharma giant turtle let out a long cry of despair and was reduced to ashes in one fell swoop. A dense and suffocating spiritual energy erupted from the collapsed Dharma idol. The intense spiritual energy stirred up a storm in the surrounding wilderness, spreading far and wide. It wouldn't be long before cultivators sensed the abnormality of the spiritual energy in this place and rushed over to investigate. The multicolored cloud slowly flew towards the Cyan Fox 9 bandits. Although the 9 bandits were curious as to who had saved their lives, they were, after all, men who had been in the world of cultivation for a long time. Although they were vigilant, they were unable to muster up the slightest resistance in their current state. As the leader, Qinghu was the first to express her gratitude. "The 9 of us thank you for saving our lives, Senior. Please leave your name. We will definitely repay you in the future." Repayment is a must. The cloud slowly faded away, turning into a thin layer of gauze that fell on Lu Ping's body. Seeing the shocked expressions of the 9 pirates, Lu Ping smiled proudly and said, "There's no need to repay me in the future. If you have the ability, why don't you repay me now?" "It's you." Qinghu, who was originally exhausted, suddenly found the strength to jump up from the ground. Immediately after, he felt someone grab his leg. When he looked down, he saw Qinghu shaking his head at him. Apart from Qinghu, the Green Fox 9 pirates were all shocked. What did they just see? Today, 2 Dharma adepts, Lao Tzu, died at the hands of this person. Before this, the 9 of them had thought that the cultivator who had come to save them was a Dharma adept, Lao Tzu. However, the truth was right in front of their eyes. The person who had saved them was not only someone they hated, but also a core forging adept. Qinghu, who had been stopped by Qinghu, finally calmed down. He looked at Lu Ping in a daze, speechless. Qinghu and Qing were also core forging level 8 adepts. If they were in Lu Ping's shoes, they would not have been able to kill 2 Dharma adepts, even with the help of the 9 Palace Clear Void spell. Lu Ping smiled as he looked at Qinghu, who had fallen to the ground to recover his inner yuan, and Qing Lang, who was beside him. Then, he looked at 7th sister and 9th sister, whose eyes had lit up ever since he had revealed his identity. He smiled and said, "I was wondering why the 9 pirates were so close to each other, but this time, they did not even want their own sister's life. It turns out that they have been chased to this extent, and they did not even have the chance to treat their own sister's injuries." Qinghu suddenly opened his eyes and shouted at Lu Ping, "Lu Ping, if you want to kill me, do whatever you want. But if you want to sow discord between us, don't even think about it." Lu Ping's expression turned serious, and he didn't mind Qinghu's words. Qinghu was obviously a brute. Instead, he glanced at Qing Lang, who had a solemn expression on his face, and said to Qinghu, "How long do the 9 of you want to live like rats on the street?" Qing Lang's eyes flashed with an almost undetectable light, but it did not escape Lu Ping's eyes. Qinghu also understood the meaning behind Lu Ping's words, but she still looked at Lu Ping and said word by word, "Elder Xin Ping, what do you mean by this?" Lu Ping smiled faintly and waved his hand, opening the door to the House of Gold. Once upon a time, Lu Ping had kept the House of Gold a secret. Now that the House of Gold was in Lu Ping's hands, he did not mind letting others know about it. Lu Ling skipped out from inside and giggled at the crowd. She then ran towards old ancestor Qin Shui's corpse, which was killed by Lu Ping's 2 origin Chen beads that had condensed 7 seals and reached the spirit nurturing grade. Lu Ping looked at Lu Linger and shook his head helplessly. Lu Bai, who appeared later, called out to her little sister. When she saw that her little sister was nowhere to be seen, she walked over to 7th sister and touched her leg. The snake venom that had been bothering 7th sister for 3 years was instantly removed by Lu Bai. 7th sister looked at the indifferent little girl in front of her and recalled the words of eldest sister's sworn brother, Reverend Sangyu from the mysterious spirit beast sect. She couldn't help but shrink back. The little girl in front of her was very likely to be the green sea snake. Lu Bai smiled and didn't care. When she turned around, she saw that Lu Linger had happily picked up the ice snow jade bracelet from Qin Shui Laozu's body. This magic weapon was very compatible with her cultivation method. Last time, Lu Ping obtained a spirit-nurturing magic weapon, the mysterious halberd. Lu Hai coaxed and pestered him to get it. He showed it off in front of Lu Linger and Lu Qiner. This made Lu Linger so angry that she ran over to Lu Ping and caused trouble several times. She also wanted an ice attribute spirit-nurturing magic weapon. How could a spirit-nurturing magic weapon be so easy to get? How could a spirit-nurturing magic weapon be so easy to get? Jinling could be considered a powerful force among the medium-sized sects, but a spirit-nurturing magic weapon was also a rare existence among the second-generation disciples of the late core forging stage. How could it be so easy to get it? For this reason, Lu Ping reprimanded Lu Hai and Lu Linger. Lu Hai was sturdy and had obtained the mysterious halberd. Naturally, he would smile mischievously at Lu Ping's reprimand. However, Lu Linger felt wronged. After Lu Ping killed Qin Shuelaozu, this ice snow jade bracelet had long been in Lu Linger's eyes. Therefore, when Lu Ping released Lu Linger and Lu Bai to remove the snake venom from Qin Shuelaozu's body, Lu Linger unexpectedly searched for the jade bracelet on Qin Shuelaozu's body. After removing the snake venom from Ninth Sister's body, Lu Linger put the jade bracelet on her wrist and walked over to Lu Ping with a smile. She unconsciously hid behind Lu Bai, clearly afraid of Lu Ping's reprimand. However, Lu Ping couldn't be bothered to pay attention to her. On the contrary, Qinghu looked at the two little girls in astonishment. She stood up and looked straight at Lu Ping. She asked, "Elder Xin Ping removed the snake venom from my two sisters just like that. Aren't you afraid that my brother and sister will reveal the identities of the two little girls?" Green sea snake. Hee. If this news were to spread in the cultivation world, I wonder what Elder Xin Ping and the Yingshan Immortal School behind you would do? A light flashed through Lu Ping's eyes. He smiled and said, "If you wanted to reveal it, you would have done so long ago. Why would you wait until today? For Brother Sang to recognize you as his sworn sister, I believe your character is not so bad." Qinghu didn't deny it. She stared into Lu Ping's eyes and said, "Elder Xin Ping, if you have something to say, just say it. What do you want us siblings to do?" "Good." Lu Ping chuckled. "Join the Yingshan Immortal School. The Immortal School will provide protection for the 9 of you. From now on, there will be no more Qinghu 9 bandits in the cultivation world. There will only be 9 third-generation core forging disciples of the Yingshan Immortal School." Qing Lang keenly noticed the hidden meaning in Lu Ping's words. Third-generation disciples? It is said that the Yingshan Immortal School was only founded a little more than a decade ago. There are only 3 generations in total, and the most outstanding of the third-generation disciples are those who have just entered the blood condensation realm. Do you want us to be like these ignorant children and have to call you Martial Uncle when we see you? Who told you that those disciples are third-generation cultivators of the Yingshan Immortal School? Lu Ping said to Qing Lang with a smile. He looked at Qing Lang's pensive expression and thought to himself that only Qinghu and Qing Lang understood this. He continued, "I am a third-generation disciple of the Yingshan Immortal School." Chapter 760. Lu Ping didn't mind giving everyone some space to think, but the stupid tiger, Qinghu, didn't fall for it. He gloomily said, "So you're just a junior." In Yingshan Immortal Academy, Lu Ping appeared as Gua Tianshan Laozu's disciple. Lu Ping was a third-generation disciple, so Gua Tianshan Laozu was naturally a second-generation disciple. Then, who were the first-generation cultivators of Yingshan Immortal Academy, and what level of cultivation did they reach? Since Yingshan Immortal Academy still had first-generation cultivators, why didn't they show themselves? Where were they hiding? Could it be that Gua Tianshan was the only second-generation cultivator? Could it be that Yingshan Immortal Academy only displayed this little bit of strength on the surface? Qinghu once again recalled her sworn brother's guess. Could it be that Yingshan Immortal Academy really was backed by an even stronger faction? Or could it be that the faction hiding behind Yingshan Immortal Academy was really, as her sworn brother had guessed, a faction from the ocean? What kind of protection can your sect provide us? Qing Lang immediately saw the hesitation in his big sister's eyes. There were some things that a leader like her could not easily say. Since Qing Lang was not in charge, it was much more convenient for her to speak. Lu Ping glanced at Qing Lang, then smiled at Qing Hu. He seemed to have sensed the tacit understanding between the two, so he said, "I have a life and death brother of the same sect. His mother is a direct descendant of the Ice Ho race." Once Lu Ping said this, the expressions of the 9 people in front of him instantly changed. A decisive killing intent brewed in the air, and the situation seemed to become tense. Qinghu stared into Lu Ping's eyes and asked word by word, "How do you know?" Lu Ping smiled and said, "You don't need to know how I know. Just know that I can guarantee that I will treat all of you equally and will not discriminate against you." Qinghu's expression fluctuated. This time, Qing Lang did not interrupt. Clearly, he wanted to leave the decision to Qinghu. Moments later, Qinghu asked, "What do we need to do?" Lu Ping immediately laughed when he heard this. "I need you to act as a hidden power for Yingshan Immortal Academy, or to do some things that Yingshan Immortal Academy cannot do. You have to know that there will always be a group of people like this behind every sect. However, their title is often called Punished Cultivators. However, Yingshan Immortal Academy has only been established for a short period of time, so its power is rather weak. Even if there are some disciples who have been punished, they cannot do much." Just as Cyan Fox was about to speak, Lu Ping raised his hand to stop her. Then, Lu Ping continued, "I also need your connections among the loose cultivators. I need the fastest way to gather information in the cultivation world. Mara has begun to appear on a large scale. I believe you know what that means. We can do these things, but just relying on your Immortal Academy's strength isn't enough. You've also said that Yingshan Immortal Academy was only recently established, so how much power can it display on the surface?" Azure Fox glanced at the siblings behind her as she spoke, choosing her words carefully. Lu Ping slapped his forehead in realization. "I understand. I'll try my best to find all the cultivation methods you need. If that doesn't work, then there's nothing I can do. You don't need to worry about pills and the like. I believe Brother Sangyu has already told you about this. I'm a pill refiner myself. There's still the second condition. Speak. We only trust you. Although the power behind you provides us with protection, you are the only ally among the 9 of us." "I'm really flattered by this." Lu Ping smiled and thought for a moment. He knew what kind of storm it would cause if the other cultivators in the sect found out about this condition. However, he still nodded and said, "Is there a third condition?" "Yes." At this point, Qinghu no longer had any misgivings. She directly said, "Kill a person for us. If you kill this person, the 9 of us will be at your disposal." Qinghu was the first to react. He opened his mouth and said, "Big sister." Qinghu reached out to stop Qinghu. At this time, the other bandits also understood what Qinghu wanted to say. Their eyes were filled with anticipation and suspicion. Lu Ping instinctively felt that this condition wouldn't be easy to fulfill, but he still said, "This condition is probably the reason why you're willing to rely on Immortal Academy's protection. Tell me about it." Several days later, the news that Qin Shuelaozu and Nan Hualaozu were killed by Qinghu and the other 9 bandits shocked the entire cultivation world of Hebei and the plains. This news was no longer limited to these 2 places. At this time, Lu Ping had already brought 9 late-stage core forging adepts back to Yingshan Immortal Academy. After meeting with Gua Tianshan Laozu, these 9 adepts became outer sect disciples of Yingshan Immortal Academy. Half a year later, the Cyan Fox 9 bandits, who had stirred up an endless storm in Hebei's cultivation world, encountered the Yingshan Immortal Academy's elder Lu Xianping in the northern ice plains. The battle between the 2 lasted for 3 days and 3 nights. In the end, Elder Lu Xianping defeated the 9 bandits. In the end, none of the Cyan Fox 9 bandits managed to escape. All of them were killed by Elder Lu Xuanping's sword. Lu Xianping from Yingshan Immortal Academy shocked the cultivation world of Hebei. However, soon after, there was news that Lu Xianping had been seriously injured in the battle with the 9 bandits. He was brought back by Gua Tianshan Laozu and was now recovering in seclusion in Immortal Academy. The news dispelled many people's suspicions. Since the Qinghu and the 9 bandits could even kill Dharma adepts, then no matter how powerful Lu Xianping was, he was still just a core forging adept. How could he emerge unscathed from the battle with the 9 bandits? But even so, Yingshan Immortal Academy's elder Lu Xuanping's name was enough to attract the attention of those who paid attention. His fame had already surpassed the limits of Hebei's cultivation world. Many cultivators had already begun to compare him with those heaven-shaking large sects and even the direct disciples of the 5 great sacred grounds. However, it was clear that Elder Lu Xuanping's injuries were more serious this time. For 5 years, there was no news of him in Hebei's cultivation world. Yingshan Immortal Academy once again became low-key and focused on developing their own strength. The cultivation of their disciples had improved by leaps and bounds in these 5 years. Many disciples from Yingshan Immortal Academy began to roam the cultivation world of Hebei. There was a rumor in Hebei's cultivation world that this was because Yingshan Immortal Academy had obtained the treasures of the Qinghu and the Nine Bandits. In reality, this speculation was not wrong. After the Qinghu and the Nine Bandits submitted to Yingshan Immortal Academy, all the cultivation resources that they had obtained in Hebei and the plains had been handed over to Yingshan Immortal Academy. These treasures contained a large number of low-level cultivation resources. They were not very useful to the late core forging adepts of the Qinghu and the Nine Bandits, but they were very beneficial to the blood refining and blood condensation disciples of Yingshan Immortal Academy. In addition to the spoils of war they had obtained from the two Dharma adepts, Qin Shuelaozu and Nanhua Laozu. Qin Shuelaozu, in particular, had brought most of the cultivation resources with him after the collapse of the Diligent Snow sect. Now, all of this had benefited Yingshan Immortal Academy. During these 5 years, Adept Xintian had broken through to the 8th stage of the core forging stage. Adept Xiankai had also broken through the bottleneck of the mid-core forging stage and broken through to the 7th stage. The Qinghu and the Nine Bandits had received the complete inheritance of the cultivation system, with Tianshan Laozu's guidance, and a stable cultivation environment. During these 5 years, Lu Ping did not stay at Yingshan Immortal Academy. Lu Ping, who had returned to his original appearance, followed the Ying River south, finally joining it in the Yulon River. The vast waters of the Yulon River seemed to have descended from the heavens, flowing towards the east. However, Lu Ping didn't stop to admire this magnificent masterpiece that he had admired for a long time. Instead, he crossed the Yulon River and entered the Hunan training world. He then turned west, passing through the Purple Sun training world where one of the 5 great holy lands, the Purple Sun Palace, crossed over the mountains in the west, and finally entered the West Barren. Aside from the 12 regions of the Central Plains, there were also the Eastern Overseas Training World, the Western Wastelands, the Southern Endless Mountains, and the Northern Icy Plains. The Yingshan mountain range where the Yingshan Immortal Academy was located was on the border between the Hebei Training World and the Northern Icy Plains. Right now, Lu Ping was in the Western Wastelands of the Central Plains. This place was vast but sparsely populated. It was remote and desolate, a traditional region of the monster race. In the past, this did not mean that the Western wilderness only had monsters. It could only be said that the monster race was the most powerful in this region. It was just like how the Central Plains was a traditional region of the human race, but in the wild mountains, rivers, and lakes of the Central Plains, there was still a vast amount of monster power. The city Lu Ping was in right now was a gathering place for human cultivators in the Western wilderness. It seems the Pegasus clan and the Koi clan are about to fall out again, or is it because of the river source? Aside from the river source, what other reason could there be? For the sake of the river source, these two races have been fighting for over 10,000 years. Seriously, can't the two races just sit down and discuss this? Even if they take turns to take over the river source, it's still better than causing rivers of blood every time. Take turns to take over? Who took over the river source first? Are they willing to give it up? Isn't it better to have rivers of blood? In any case, it's just internal strife between the monster race. More deaths are actually beneficial to our human race. Brother, do you think the Water Clan will win the battle between the two clans? It's hard to say. These two races are both top races among the monster race. Their strength is equal to each other. Over the past 10,000 years, there have been victories and defeats. It's possible that one of them will take over the river source. That's as good as not saying anything. However, I think the Koi clan will win. As the name suggests, the river source is a place with water. The Koi clan is a member of the water race, so they have an innate advantage. I don't think so. In recent years, the Pegasus clan has produced many young talents. It is said that their strength is comparable to the direct disciples of the Purple Sun Palace. Besides, the river source is filled with water. Once one's strength reaches a certain level, what's the difference between being in or not being in the water? Don't forget about Western Desolation Palace. Last time, Western Desolation Palace wanted to take advantage of the war between the two races to reap the benefits. However, they were nearly ambushed by the combined forces of the two races. Will Western Desolation Palace just stand by and do nothing this time? That's true. Who knows, Purple Sun Palace might get involved as well. Surely not. Purple Sun Palace will return as well? Why not? A few days ago, someone discovered cultivators from Purple Sun Palace appearing nearby. There's no guarantee that Purple Sun Palace won't get a share of the spoils this time. That's true. I heard that Mara has appeared on a large scale in the cultivation world of Habe. The various sects in the cultivation world of Habe have suffered greatly from him. Right now, both the human and Yao races are probably in a state of panic. They will need to make some preparations. Lu Ping's divine sense swept through the tea house in the market, searching for any information that could be useful to him. Moments later, Lu Ping kept the tea set before him. Tossing a mid-grade spirit stone over, he walked out of the tea house and headed straight for the exit of the market. Chapter 761. Lu Qiner's cultivation was already on the verge of breaking through to the late core forging realm. Once she reached the late core forging realm, Lu Ping would have to prepare for her return to the Fire Phoenix clan's inheritance land to receive the inheritance. Apart from her, Samling would also have to return to the Green Sea Snake's inheritance land before advancing to the Transcendence realm to choose a suitable inheritance for himself. However, Lu Ping obviously didn't want Lu Qiner to break through to the mid-core forging realm now. This time, when he came to the Western Wilderness, he grabbed Lu Qiner as his able-bodied man. As of now, Lu Qiner's true body had grown to an astonishing size as her cultivation base grew. Her wingspan was at least 15 meters, and when she flew several hundred meters in the air, she left a huge black shadow on the ground. Lu Ping leisurely sat cross-legged on Lu Qiner's back. Ever since Lu Qiner advanced to the core forging realm, Lu Ping rarely used Lu Qiner as a mount. The Western Wilderness wasn't really barren. On the contrary, when riding on Lu Qiner's back and looking at the endless prairie, it suddenly made people feel that the sky was high and the earth was high, making people feel very broad-minded. A clear sound was heard, and Lu Qiner suddenly swooped down from the sky. When Lu Ping looked down, he saw that there seemed to be something fleeing in the thick grass. Wherever it passed, the grass would sway. Just as Lu Qiner was about to hit the ground, he saw Lu Qiner's wings flapping, and its rapidly descending body suddenly pulled up. Its pair of sharp claws reached down as far as possible, sinking into the grass that was 3 feet high. Lu Qiner's wings flapped again, and its huge body soared straight up. Its pair of sharp claws brought out a gray sand fox from the grass. Lu Ping scanned the sand fox with his divine will and found that it was in the blood condensation realm. Slightly moved, he took out the devil transformation bracelet from his cuff and put it on his wrist. Lu Qiner transformed into a human and slowly landed on the prairie with Lu Ping. Lu Qiner was holding a small trembling fox in her arms. It seemed that Lu Qiner had taken it as a pet on a whim. Lu Ping gestured to Lu Qiner to put the small fox on the ground. Then he looked at the little fox that had curled up on the ground and said, "Foxes are naturally intelligent. Now you should understand what I'm saying. Let me ask you, are we in the Green Hill Plain?" He looked at the little fox's eyes and said, "You can lie all you want. I don't mind killing an ant." Lu Qiner giggled, and the little fox's already curled-up body slumped to the ground. However, its eyes were still fixed on Lu Ping and not on the perpetrator of this prank, Lu Qiner. Although it could feel the heavy pressure from Lu Qiner, its instincts told it that this ordinary-looking young man before it was even more dangerous. This could be said to be an instinct born from a monster cultivator's transformation into a wild beast. The little fox nodded. Lu Ping's face was as calm as an ancient well. He spat out 2 words, "Speak." Monsters in the late stage of the blood condensation realm could only speak and transform after taking a bone-melting pill or a transformation pill. However, foxes were different. Although foxes were not the direct descendants of the 7th patriarch, their innate intelligence was no weaker than top-level monsters. They could speak after reaching the blood condensation realm. Senior, this is the Green Hill Plain. I'm just a little monster. I don't know anything. Please let me go. The little sand fox knew what to do and immediately spoke. Lu Ping smiled and said, since it's the Green Hill Plains, then you must be from the Sand Fox clan. Do you know of the Green Fox clan's Ching Fox clan? The Green Fox clan? The little fox raised its left front paw and made a scratching gesture on its head. Then, as if remembering something, it said, I've heard from the seniors in the clan that there used to be a Green Fox clan and the Green Hill Fox clan. However, something happened to the Green Fox clan a few decades ago, and we offended the Pegasus clan. The Pegasus clan came to question us, but we were no match for the Pegasus clan. In the end, we had no choice but to swallow our grievances and banish the Green Fox clan. After the Cyan Fox bloodline was expelled from the Pleading Fox clan, the Pegasus clan began to hunt down the Cyan Fox bloodline. Many clansmen fled in all directions, but even more were killed by the Pegasus clan. Lu Ping listened quietly to the little fox's story, then asked, do you know what happened to the Green Fox clan and why they were hunted down by the Pegasus clan? The little fox shook its head and said, I don't know about this. The elders in the clan are very secretive about this matter. I overheard it by accident. It's just some gossip that the elders in the clan were talking about. Lu Ping glanced at the little fox, and his eyes pierced the little fox like a knife. But Lu Ping laughed and said, Little fox, what's your name? My surname is Tu, and my first name is Chun. The little fox's face turned pale from Lu Ping's piercing glare, and it couldn't even speak properly. What do you know about the Pegasus clan? The Pegasus clan? That's one of the royal clans of the Western Wilderness Prairie, and they are the direct descendants of Zhao Daoren, one of the 7 saints of the Creator. Our Green Hill Fox clan is also a powerful clan in the Western Wilderness Prairie. If we hadn't offended the Pegasus clan, the Green Fox clan would not have been forced into such a situation. Lu Ping could clearly hear a trace of resentment towards the Pegasus clan from the little fox's mouth. You just said that the Pegasus clan is just one of the royal clans of the prairie. Are there other royal clans? The so-called royal clans of the Demon Clan actually referred to the direct descendants of the 7 saints of the Creator, the top demon clans in the cultivation world. Yes. The little fox somehow looked a little excited. Lu Ping glanced at the little fox's lower body, but he did not speak. He just listened to the little fox with a smile. There are 3 royal clans in the Western Wilderness Prairie. In addition to the Pegasus clan, there are the white-fronted tigers with the direct descendants of Taoist Hu, and the green-eyed golden eagles with the direct descendants of Peng Daoren. Oh, why do I hear that there is a Khoi clan in the Western Wilderness? Khoi clan? Their Tianmen Palace is indeed in the Western Wilderness, but it is in the middle of the Yulon River. The power of the Khoi clan covers the entire Yulon River. The Western Wilderness is mainly the prairie, which is not the sphere of influence of the Khoi clan. What about the source of the river? Why does the Pegasus clan want to use the Khoi clan to fight for the source of the river? The source of the river? Since you know the source of the river, how can you not know why the 2 clans are fighting for it? The little fox blurted out, but he immediately realized that his words were inappropriate. Sure enough, Lu Qiner stepped on the little fox's tail. The little fox cried out in pain, but he did not dare to move at all. He remained lying on the ground. Just tell me what I asked. Why do you have so much nonsense? Lu Qiner was a qualified female delinquent, a thug type. However, at this moment, Lu Qiner's face changed. She kicked the little fox, Tu Chun, who was curled up on the ground. A broken jade talisman appeared under the little fox's body. No wonder he was still lying on the ground after being stepped on by Lu Qiner. It turned out that he was trying to hide the talisman from others. Seeing that the situation was not good, the little fox turned around and tried to escape. Unexpectedly, as soon as he jumped up, his body spasmed again, and he fell to the ground with a scream. His big furry tail was stepped on by Lu Qiner again. Little guy, you're courting death. Lu Qiner did not expect that this little thing in the blood condensation realm could play such tricks under her nose. She immediately wanted to kill the little fox. Lu Ping reached out to stop Lu Qiner. He looked down at the jade talisman on the ground and said, Okay, don't make things difficult for this little guy. His parents are coming. Let's go first. Lu Qiner's arms turned into a huge pair of wings and hovered toward the sky. Lu Ping stood on the broad back of Qing Yuan and threw 3 jade bottles to the little fox who was suppressed by Lu Qiner's bloodline coercion. He said, "This is your reward. Keep it well." Lu Qiner let out a long cry, flapped her wings a few times, and disappeared into the sky. Only then did the little fox Tu Chun dare to stand up. Looking at the jade bottles under his feet, Tu Chun hesitated for a moment, but still picked them up. After opening one of the jade bottles, a strong medicinal fragrance rushed out of the jade bottle and went straight into Tu Chun's nose. Tu Chun suddenly felt a burst of joy all over his body. This was an elixir, and an excellent elixir. It was probably an elixir from the hands of a human alchemist. Tu Chun's face lit up with joy. Then, as if remembering something, he opened the other 2 jade bottles as well. The inside of the bottles was also filled with the same strong fragrance of medicinal pills. However, the medicinal pills in the 3 bottles were clearly different. Nonetheless, they were all useful for his current cultivation. Tu Chun's Green Hill Fox clan was also a relatively large demon clan in the western wilderness. There were Dharma adepts in the clan. Tu Chun himself had a high status in the Sand Fox clan, so he was naturally knowledgeable. No matter from which aspect, these 3 elixirs were of the best quality among elixirs of the same kind. They must have been made by a famous human alchemist. However, this knowledge did not mean that Tu Chun's cultivation resources were also sufficient. As a demon cultivator in the blood condensation stage, in terms of cultivation resources, Tu Chun could not compare to human cultivators of the same level. This was also an important reason why the demon race could not gain an advantage over the human race. In most cases, the elixirs of human alchemists and demon alchemists could be divided into 2 types. First, the quality was not good. The same elixir refined by a human alchemist would be 3 times more effective than the same elixir refined by a demon alchemist. Second, the quality was different. The elixirs refined by human alchemists were more meticulous, and the medicinal toxins were more cleanly dealt with fewer side effects. On the other hand, the elixirs refined by the demon race were relatively crude. The same elixir refined by a human alchemist could be consumed 10 times in a row before the medicinal effects would decrease. On the other hand, the elixirs refined by demon alchemists were not thoroughly dealt with. Usually, after consuming 7 or 8 pills, the medicinal effects of the elixirs would begin to decrease. The demon race also had alchemists, but compared to the human race, the demon race's alchemy skills were undoubtedly inferior. The reason for this was their spirituality. Chapter 762. The human race would start nurturing an alchemist from the blood refining realm. This was because humans were born with innate intelligence. They would start cultivating at the age of 4 or 5. When an apprentice broke through to the blood condensation realm, as long as they had some talent in alchemy, they would be able to become an alchemist. The monster race, on the other hand, was different. Most of the monster cultivators were muddle-headed before the blood condensation realm. Only after they advanced to the blood condensation realm would they have complete intelligence. Only when they reached the core forging realm would they be able to take human form. Therefore, most of the alchemists in the monster race would only begin to cultivate after they had advanced to the core forging stage and completely transformed into human form. However, at this time, they had already missed the best time to lay a foundation for alchemists. Moreover, they were slower than human cultivators of the same level by tens or even hundreds of years. How could their alchemy be compared to that of the human race? Of course, there was no lack of alchemy geniuses like the Wood Luanyu in the monster race. There were human alchemists in the blood condensation realm that were no less talented than human alchemists. However, the chances of them appearing in the monster race was hundreds of times higher than in the human race. However, in general, the monster race was not only inferior to the human race in alchemy, but also in the number of alchemists. This directly caused the scarcity of pills in the monster race to be far greater than that of the human race. These 3 bottles of pills were enough to raise his cultivation to the next level. The little sand fox, Tu Chun, had just put the 3 bottles of pills into his storage artifact when he saw a few rays of light descending from the sky. Among them were 2 familiar figures. He called out, "Grandpa, Father." "Oomph, little brat, you actually learned to run away from home. I'll break your legs." "All right, shut up. Chun-er, tell me, why did you crush the jade talisman?" The secret of the river source was actually not a secret at all. When Lu Ping and Lu Qiner were rushing towards the territory of the Pegasus clan, they met a few small monsters along the way. From them, he learned the reason why the Pegasus clan and the Koi clan were fighting for the river source. It was said that when the seventh patriarch of heaven creation came to this world, it was very coincidental. At that time, Peng Daoren, who had the highest cultivation among the seventh patriarch of heaven creation, was sparring with Jiao Daoren. The two fought for an unknown period of time. In the end, Jiao Daoren was defeated by one move and was seriously injured. However, Peng Daoren was not much better off. His Zhengqi was almost depleted, and in the end, the two fell from the sky and smashed into the ground of this world. Among them, Jiao Daoren landed at the place where the river source was located, creating a huge pit of unknown depth. Water directly rose from the ground and formed a huge lake. The lake made several turns in the western wilderness and finally flowed towards the central plains. Along the way, it converged with countless small tributaries and finally flowed into the North Sea. This river was the second largest river in the Central Plains, the Yulon River. The lake formed by the place where Jiao Daoren fell became the source of the Yulon River. Therefore, it was called the river source, and this lake was also called the Sacred Lake of Fallen Saints. This was because one of the seven saints of heaven creation, Jiao Daoren, had fallen from this place. Millions of kilometers away from the place where Jiao Daoren had fallen from the sky was the place where Peng Daoren had fallen from the sky. This place had also been smashed into the source of the river. A river meandered eastward, converging with countless other streams of water, passing through several cultivation worlds of the Central Plains before finally flowing into the East Sea. Whether in terms of length or volume, this river was much larger than the Yulon River. As a result, this great river was the true largest river in the Central Plains, and was known as the Nethersian River. The source of the river that the Pegasus clan and the Koi clan were fighting over was the source of the Yulon River, formed when Jiao Daoren had fallen from the sky all those years ago. It was said that the source of the river was shrouded in fog all year round, forming a natural formation within a radius of thousands of kilometers. This formation was said to have been left behind by Jiao Daoren all those years ago, and it would automatically open after a certain period of time. Only those with the serpent bloodline could enter. Cultivators with other bloodlines, even after the formation was opened, would not be able to pass through and see the Sacred Lake of Fallen Saints. The Sacred Lake of Fallen Saints contained the legacy that Jiao Daoren had left behind for his descendants. Every time it opened, it would stay open for about 5 years. During these 5 years, any cultivator who entered would basically be able to increase their cultivation by at least one level. However, this was only for cultivators below the core forging stage. Originally, when the miraculous effects of the Sacred Lake of Fallen Saints were discovered, cultivators with the serpent bloodline from all over the world, whether they were humans or monsters, all gathered here on a large scale. After all, it was a legacy left behind by Jiao Daoren, so who wouldn't want to come and explore it? However, the number of people who could enter the Sacred Lake of Fallen Saints was limited, and it was only for core forging stage cultivators. The western wilderness was too far away, so over time, fewer and fewer people went to the Sacred Lake of Fallen Saints. In the end, it was originally divided between the Tenma people of the western wilderness and the Koi clan of the Yulon River, the two top clans with the direct bloodline of Jiao Daoren. After receiving the news that the river source was about to open, Lu Ping did not speak for a long time. Although the river source was occupied by the Tenma clan and the Koi clan all year round, it was not that no other cultivators with the serpent bloodline would enter the river source every time it opened. It was just that these cultivators usually entered more than they came out, and most of them were killed by the cultivators of the Tenma and Koi clans in the Sacred Lake. However, this time, Lu Ping decided to go in and investigate. Not only could the Sacred Lake of Fallen Saints improve a cultivator's cultivation by a level in 5 years, but if what Qinghu said was true, it was very likely that the people that Lu Ping killed would appear in the Sacred Lake of Fallen Saints this time. A group of Tenma galloped across the lush grassland, and the grass that had been flattened tenaciously stood up again. There were about 100 Tenma in this group, but only the three in the lead had a horn that was half a foot long on their foreheads, indicating that they were pure-blooded Tenma. The rest were just ordinary Tenma demons. Although most of the Tenma demons in this group were only blood condensation cultivators, and only 7 of them, including the 3 leading Tenma demons, were at the early and mid-stage core forging stage. However, as the 100 or so Tenma demons ran, they set off a ferocious aura. This was clearly a type of demon soldier formation. The demon soldier formation formed by the 7 Tenma demons at the early and early-stage core forging stage was enough to kill a few late-stage core forging cultivators. After the Tenma demons passed through this area, the surrounding transparent void suddenly fluctuated, as if layers of gauze had been lifted up in the void. Then, Lu Ping walked out from the layers of gauze. Lu Ping's face turned solemn as he looked in the direction where the Pegasus had left, leaving only a faint layer of dust behind. Through his divine sense, he could tell that this area had been completely sealed off by the Pegasus and the Koi clan. Lu Ping turned to look. A few dozen kilometers away, a thick fog covered an area of over 1,000 kilometers in circumference. In the middle of the fog was the source of the Yulon River, sacred settling lake. Around Lake Sage was a dense network of canals, which divided the endless grassland into irregular areas. Within these small streams of water, it was the Koi demons' world. The closer they got to the source of the river, the higher the cultivation levels of the Tenma demons and the Koi demons. Although a Dharma treasure was the most powerful weapon for a cultivator to unleash their own strength, the true significance of a Dharma treasure lay in the fact that after a cultivator had advanced to the Dharma stage, the divine will would be unleashed through the Dharma treasure. Only in this way could the Dharma power be unleashed to its greatest potential. The quality of each great sorcery directly affected the quality of the sorcery seed. Therefore, the higher the level of improvement of such a great sorcery seed in the future, the higher the quality of the sorcery seed condensed, and the more powerful it would be after attaining the Dharma stage in the future. However, the condensation of a great technique seed was an extremely difficult task for most Dharma adepts. Peak forging adepts often did not have the confidence to condense a great technique seed while advancing to the Dharma stage. In order not to affect their future advancement to the Dharma stage, they could only accumulate all their potential. However, after advancing to the Dharma stage, it was even more difficult for a Dharma adept to condense a great technique seed. Only under extremely harsh conditions could a great technique seed be successfully condensed. One of the ways to do so was when a Dharma adept had passed the Thunder Trial and reached the mid-Dharma stage, the late Dharma stage, and the peak Dharma stage. However, these 3 chances were even slimmer than when a Dharma adept advanced to the Dharma stage. In reality, the condensation of a great technique seed was actually a vicious cycle for a Dharma adept. The more they delayed, the less likely it was to succeed. The further they delayed, the greater the gap between them and the Dharma adept who had condensed a great technique seed. The reason why Qinxue Laozu, Nanhua Laozu, and Laozu from the Willow Ocean sect, whom Lu Ping had previously fought with, was said to be the lowest of the early Dharma adepts was because these adepts had not condensed even the lowest grade of great technique seed. In times of extreme danger, they could only summon their Dharma power as their strongest attack. On the other hand, Qinxue Laozu from the Huayu sect, who had almost escaped from Guotianshan, Liang Tianfeng, and Chu Tianqing, was also an early Dharma adept. Other than Qinxue Laozu being at the peak of the early Dharma stage, the most important reason was that when he had advanced to the Dharma stage, he had condensed a great technique seed and formed it into a natural technique. Although this great technique seed was only an ordinary great technique, in the hands of a Dharma adept, it was still extremely powerful. It was precisely because of this natural technique that he had broken through the encirclement of 3 Dharma adepts. Furthermore, it was only a move at the end of its tether, but it was enough to send Lu Ping flying with one blow. The difference between a Dharma adept who had condensed a great technique seed and a natural technique and a Dharma adept who had not could be described as the difference between heaven and earth. For a Dharma adept who had yet to advance to the Dharma stage, the formation of a great technique seed depended on two factors. The first factor was the quality of the great technique seed that was condensed, and the second factor was the quality of the golden elixir that the Dharma adept condensed after reaching the 9th stage of the core forging stage. The Dharma adept from the Pegasus clan who was chasing after Lu Ping had obviously condensed a great technique seed and formed it into a natural technique. For a Dharma adept who had formed a natural technique, the most direct way to describe his or her strength was through words. As such, no matter how nimble Lu Ping's spirit cultivation grade flying treasure was, as long as the Dharma adept from the Tenma people was certain that Lu Ping was someone who wanted to enter the sacred lake of the river source, he would be able to firmly guard the direction that was covered by the thick fog. Thus, Lu Ping would not be able to break free from the entanglement and enter the fog. The natural technique that the Tenma people had used against Lu Ping was called Ding Tian. It was a powerful great technique that had been passed down through the generations of the Tenma people. Now that the Tenma adept had condensed it into a natural technique, its power had more than doubled. Furthermore, this great mystique had been created by the ancestors of the Pegasus clan in the past, in order to unleash the power of the horn on the head of the Pegasus clan. This Dharma adept of the Pegasus clan had refined his own horn into a life Dharma treasure, making the power of this natural mystique even more powerful. Thus, when Lu Ping encountered this Dharma adept who had condensed a natural technique, the confidence and pride that Lu Ping had gained from challenging opponents of a higher level was completely shattered. All he could do now was run, and run like a dog. The autumn dew sword had been sent flying. Before the great river flows east, technique could descend from the sky. It had already been smashed into the sky by the horn. How could he dare to use the essential energy single sword technique now? Furthermore, even if he did, it might not be of much use. The flying whirlwind technique was a sneak attack technique, which was not very useful against a Dharma adept who had mastered the space technique. As for the seeping water sword technique, there was no need to mention it. It was a great technique for attacking head-on battles. How could Lu Ping dare to fight head-on with this Dharma adept now? The most important problem was that the Pegasus clan was good at running, and flying was one of their talents. Lu Ping had used the ocean crossing boat several times to increase the distance between the two of them. However, after a short while, the Tenma adept had caught up with him again. Lu Ping had no choice but to give up on entering the sacred lake now. He turned around and headed deeper into the West Wilderness. However, at this time, the Dharma adept of the Pegasus clan did not want to let Lu Ping go. 3 spirit cultivation level treasures, ocean crossing boat, a cloud 5 elements robe, and a pair of flying swords were enough to tempt a Dharma adept. You can't escape. The Dharma adept of the Pegasus clan was no longer concerned about his duty. However, he saw that Lu Ping, who had been running away, had suddenly stopped and turned around. A white jade lotus had suddenly bloomed on Lu Ping's chest, its layers of petals white and flawless. Chapter 764. The Tenma people's instincts told him that something was wrong. However, he saw a white ray of light shoot out from the white jade lotus right in front of him. Lao Tzu felt his entire body stiffen. Regardless of whether it was his body, true essence, or bloodline, it could be said that apart from his spiritual sense, everything was frozen in place by the white ray of light. What a brilliant mind-focused divine art! But it was still not enough. The heaven Pegasus cultivator's spiritual sense moved, and the heaven-piercing thorn that was formed from his horn drilled into his heart's space. In one fell swoop, the heaven Pegasus cultivator immediately regained control of his body. This was the natal magical ability, the realm of verbal compliance. As long as the cultivator was not dead, the natal magical treasure could still protect its master under the control of the natal magical ability. In a battle between experts, victory and defeat could be decided by a hair's breadth. Although Lu Ping did not have the ability to defeat the Heaven Pegasus cultivator in such a short amount of time, he still had a chance to escape from the Heaven Pegasus cultivator's entanglement. A bolt of multicolored lightning descended from the sky. The rolling thunder seemed to be still brewing. The Heaven Pegasus cultivator, who had just escaped from Lu Ping's natural magic ability, finally had a trace of hesitation when he saw the seven-colored lightning descending from the sky. The seven-colored lightning is too similar to the Yuan clan's primal chaos lightning technique. Could it be a cultivator from the Yuan clan? Since when did the arrogant Yuan clan cultivators become willing to learn techniques other than lightning techniques? The Heaven Pegasus cultivator's mind twisted for a moment. However, his hand was not the least bit reckless. The heaven-piercing thorn shot up into the sky and dispersed the seven-colored lightning in one fell swoop. The heaven-piercing thorn's surface flickered with lightning, and the heaven-piercing thorn's body trembled slightly. The flickering lightning continuously dissipated, as if the heaven-piercing thorn itself was digesting the lightning through breathing. This was actually a treasure at the peak of spirit cultivation that had condensed 9 treasure restrictions. It only needed to undergo the Thunder Tribulation to become a First Tribulation spirit treasure. Lu Ping's 2 killer moves had finally won him a moment to breathe. Without any hesitation, Lu Ping leapt into the fog. The boat sped through the fog, leaving behind a scorching trail in the air. The Tianma cultivator could no longer stop Lu Ping as he watched Lu Ping disappear into the fog. Suddenly, he raised his voice and asked, "Your Excellency has great skills. I am the Tima people Ma Changguang. May I know your name?" Lu Xianping of the North Sea. As the light entered the fog, a voice came from afar. Right at this moment, a few streaks of light suddenly rose up from the direction where Lu Ping had fled to, flying toward the direction of the Pegasus cultivators. "Greetings, third young master." And the Pegasus cultivator Ma Chengwang waved his hand absent-mindedly. "Third young master, what should we do next? This person is very cunning. I can't believe he didn't fall for it." Ma Chengwang glanced at his subordinates. As if remembering something, he said, "Go and inform fourth young master and the other cultivators who are preparing to enter the river source. If they encounter this Lu Xianping, tell them to avoid him as much as possible. This person is not easy to deal with. I'm afraid fourth young master is no match for him." "Even fourth young master is no match for him? Young master, you know fourth young master's personality. It would have been better if you didn't say it. If you did, fourth young master would probably make a special trip to cause trouble for that person. Besides, the number of slots to enter the sacred lake is limited. When the time comes, there will be a lot of fighting. Our Pegasus clan doesn't lack that quota. Besides, every time the sacred lake opens, there are always other cultivators who can avoid the eyes and ears of our Pegasus clan and the Koi clan, or simply force their way in. However, this person is quite different. We can feel that even when Boss advanced to the late core forging stage, he didn't have this kind of strength. This person is even stronger than eldest young master. All right, that's enough. You guys just need to relay my words to fourth brother. He knows what he's doing. Besides, it's also good to let him suffer some losses. That way, he won't lose his life in the future with an invincible attitude. Don't worry, he has a lot of life-saving treasures from the seniors in the clan. It won't be easy for me to kill him." "Yes, third young master. However, the opening of the sacred lake this time is different from the past. If that person discovers anything, then this secret can't be hidden. Do you think the Western Wilderness Palace and the Purple Sun Palace are fools with such a big movement from the Pegasus and Koi clans?" Ma Chengwang chuckled and said, "But it won't be easy to discover this secret. If it wasn't for the fact that my Flood Dragon bloodline has been refined to a very pure and vigorous level during my cultivation, and my body has been strengthened to a certain extent, diving to the bottom of the sacred lake would be impossible." Looking at his subordinates leaving, Ma Chengwang looked in the direction that Lu Ping had left and muttered to himself, "Since when did such a powerful person appear in the North Sea? This is interesting. When I get back, I'll have to ask the clan to pay attention to the situation in the North Sea." As soon as Lu Ping entered the thick fog, he felt his blood surge and his heart beat faster. The spiritual ether in his body circulated faster and faster. Lu Ping could feel that there was an invisible force in the depths of the thick fog that was attracting him. Lu Ping was very familiar with this kind of throbbing. Back when he was in the space where Long Huai was in the fallen Great Archipelago, Lu Ping also had this kind of feeling. At that time, it was because of a strange bloodstone that made Lu Ping's own bloodline and aptitude improve by leaps and bounds. Lu Ping activated the North Sea Wave listening technique. The 8 strange flood dragons on the surface of the Jindan swam for a while, and the restlessness that originated from his bloodline immediately calmed down. Lu Ping did not hesitate to give his name when Ma Qingwang asked for his name. It was not that Lu Ping was reckless, but that Lu Ping deliberately wanted to improve his reputation in the Central Plains. With the rise of Jinling, the establishment of Central Plains factions such as the Yingshan Immortal School, and the possibility of forming an alliance with other factions in the future to build an ultra-long-distance transmission array and restore the direct connection between the Central Plains and the North Sea, Jinling needed to show its strength in the Central Plains and gain a higher reputation. This reputation could only be achieved by the most outstanding cultivators of Jinling. This time, Lu Ping used the opportunity of fulfilling his promise to Qinghu to travel the Central Plains. Guotian Shan Laozu had once instructed Lu Ping to not only do it for himself, but also to gain the reputation of Jinling. Guotian Shan Laozu naturally knew that Jinling, who was born in the barren North Sea, would not be looked up to by the factions of Central Plains in the beginning. Jinling's reputation was not supported by Lu Ping alone, but if there was anyone who could win the most reputation for Jinling, it would undoubtedly be Lu Ping. But when the cultivator of the Pegasus Dharma characteristic who was fighting him said that his name was Ma Qingwang, Lu Ping's heart could not help but sink. This time, he had promised Qinghu that he would kill a cultivator of the Pegasus clan, who was also the culprit behind the destruction of the Qinghu clan. His name was Ma Qinsi. Ma Qinyang, Ma Qinshuang, Ma Qingwang, Ma Qinsi, and Ma Qinliang were the 5 children of Ma Zhan, the patriarch of the Pegasus clan. Moreover, these 5 children of Ma Zhan were quite diligent in cultivation. In addition to their own efforts, with the top bloodline inheritance of the Pegasus clan and the strong support of the Pegasus clan, the strength of these 5 siblings belonged to the top among the cultivators of the same level. Among them, Ma Zhan's first 3 sons and daughters had already advanced to the Dharma characteristic stage. Ma Qingwang, who had fought with Lu Ping, had also condensed his own special ability seed. Lu Ping did not know if the other 2 were the same. On the other hand, Lu Ping's target, Ma Qinsi, was already at the 9th level of the core forging stage. This time, he entered the sacred lake to borrow the power of the 5 years of cultivation in the lake to refine the spiritual object in one go, pushing his cultivation to the peak of the core forging stage and forming a high-grade golden core. But now, Lu Ping did not know if Ma Qinsi had already entered the fog. After all, the information that Qinghu had given him was from decades ago. Decades ago, Ma Qingwang had not yet advanced to the Dharma characteristic stage. Now, not only had Ma Qingwang advanced to the Dharma characteristic stage, but he had also just beaten Lu Ping until he could not fight back. Lu Ping frowned as he observed the blurred vision around him. Legend had it that the fog here was gathered because of the formation that Jiao Daoren had set up in the past. Lu Ping immediately discovered that this fog could not only obscure one's vision, but it could also greatly reduce the range of a cultivator's divine sense. A strange light flickered in Lu Ping's eyes, then he calmed down. However, there was an additional trace of discouragement in his eyes. Clearly, the effect of the true pupils of the 3 pure ones had been greatly reduced. Although he could see a few more feet, it was only a drop in the bucket. Lu Ping calmed down and pondered for a moment. Then, he resolutely and carefully walked towards the depths of the fog. Whether it was the legend of Jiao Daoren at the source of the river, or the throbbing that came from the depths of his bloodline, Lu Ping had no choice but to investigate. However, before Lu Ping could go too far, a sharp beam of light slashed towards Lu Ping from the side. Lu Ping seemed to have noticed it long ago. He fused the water control flag with his astral energy to instantly shatter the incoming beam of light. Immediately after that, the fated person in autumn sword flew towards the incoming beam of light. A grunt rang out from over 10 zhang away. When the fated person in autumn sword flew back, there was a bloody mark on it. Clearly, the flying chain slash had succeeded. However, Lu Ping did not continue to attack. Instead, he strode towards the source of the slash. There was only a pool of blood on the ground. As for the person who attacked Lu Ping earlier, he had long since left. It would appear that this place was also very dangerous and filled with killing intent. After all, only 100 cultivators could enter Sacred Fall Lake, where the river source was located. The other cultivators who had broken through the defenses of the Pegasus clan and Koi clan, as well as the greater number of cultivators from the Pegasus clan and Koi clan, numbered far more than 100. As such, before Sacred Fall Lake opened, this foggy area, which covered a radius of 500 kilometers, would definitely become a place of slaughter. At that moment, the cultivators from the Pegasus clan who were entering the fog received a message from the third prince, Ma Chengwang. When the fourth prince, Ma Chenxi, heard the news, he impatiently rushed into the fog. Chapter 765. Lu Ping had already released Samling. The green sea snake was the same as the Tenma people, the Koi carp tribe, and the primordial giant crocodile tribe. They were all direct descendants of the Jiao bloodline. Since the Koi carp tribe and the Pegasus tribe valued the source of the river so much, Lu Ping would naturally release Samling to see what was going on. Did the three of you notice anything strange in the thick fog? Lu Ping believed that the reason why his bloodline could feel such a strong attraction was because of the Jiao bloodline. Therefore, the green sea snake, who was also a direct descendant of Jiao Daoran like the Tenma people and the Koi carp tribe, should feel a stronger attraction than him. However, Samling kept shaking his head. Obviously, the three of them did not feel anything strange in their bloodline. This made Lu Ping confused. Lu Ping opened the space portal of the Golden House and wanted to release Lu Qin. However, Lu Qin did not dare to come out. Lu Ping asked why, but Lu Qin only said that there was something in the thick fog that she was afraid of. Lu Ping tried to release Lu Dagui and Lu Debao, but the two of them were also hiding in the space. No matter how Lu Ping summoned them, they did not dare to come out. Lu Ping asked why, but they could not tell him the reason. It seemed that it was a kind of intuition, a kind of instinct that originated from monsters that allowed them to sense the hidden threat in the thick fog. There was no turning back now. Just as Lu Ping injured the hidden opponent and rushed to his hiding spot, his divine sense suddenly changed. It was as if the surrounding scenery had completely changed. Lu Ping moved forward in the direction he came from, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't find his way out of the fog-shrouded area. If it was a blessing, it wouldn't be a disaster, and if it was a disaster, he couldn't avoid it. Lu Ping pondered for a moment, then immediately got up and walked in the direction of the temptation in his bloodline. Through the compressed divine sense, Lu Ping could only detect a radius of more than 100 feet. However, when he walked in the direction of the invisible temptation, Lu Ping found that he was not walking in a straight line towards the depths of the thick fog. Instead, he was going left, then back. A moment ago, he was still going forward, but a moment later, he was going right. This made Lu Ping unable to tell which direction he was going. Although Lu Ping had many doubts, he still followed this mysterious feeling. He suspected that he was going in the right direction, because he was not going in the wrong direction. It was because he was hiding in the thick fog that he could not tell which direction he was going. Although he seemed to be running around like a headless fly, Lu Ping might really have taken a shortcut. This time, Lu Ping naturally did a lot of research on the river source array. Every time the river source array opened, the fog array would open a month in advance. After entering the fog array, the cultivators must find the Sacred Fall Lake where the river source was located within a month. Otherwise, the cultivators would lose the qualification to enter the Sacred Fall Lake. They could only stay in the fog array for 4 to 5 years, and then wait for the cultivators who entered the Sacred Fall Lake to finish their seclusion before the fog array was reopened. This 1-month period was actually a test for cultivators. After entering the fog formation, due to the obstruction of spiritual sense and vision, cultivators would often encounter each other abruptly, resulting in a battle. Unlike before, cultivators could use spiritual sense and visual abilities to avoid each other. In such a battle, once one side was defeated due to the close distance, they would often not be able to escape even if they wanted to. Lu Ping moved forward for about an hour before he finally noticed some movement in front of him. He immediately stopped. Samling, who was following behind Lu Ping, transformed into 3 small snakes that were 3 feet long. They slithered around Lu Ping's feet, but they did not dare to go too far away from Lu Ping. Otherwise, they would not know how the array would work, and they would lose contact with Lu Ping. The aura on Samling's body rapidly decreased under Lu Ping's divine sense. This surprised Lu Ping. He did not expect Samling to have such a brilliant method of concealing his tracks. This method was similar to a skill similar to hibernation to Lu Ping. It reduced the aura of the body's life to the minimum. The only difference was that Samling still maintained a clear mind and fast attack power. Green light shone from Lu Ping's eyes. He could already see a vague shadow more than 30 feet away. His divine sense could also detect that the other party's cultivation was around the 9th stage of the core forging realm. The other party seemed to be very cautious, ready to deal with any sudden changes in the fog. Lu Ping had clearly noticed him first. Under such circumstances, it would not be difficult for Lu Ping to launch a sneak attack and heavily injure him. However, killing him in one blow would not be easy. Even if he could not kill him in one blow, as long as the other party still had the strength to activate a simple escape technique and run more than 30 feet away, due to the array, Lu Ping would not be able to find him again. Lu Ping moved his finger slightly, and the blue netherwater sword circled around Lu Ping's body like a ghost. Then, Lu Ping made a hand seal, and the netherwater sword immediately disappeared into the thick fog. This was the best time for the netherwater sword to shine. It was also the best time for the shapeless sword technique to be amplified to the extreme. At this time, the other cultivator seemed to have noticed something. He had already stopped in his tracks and stood there quietly, as if sensing something. However, none of his various perception-type magic techniques could detect anything strange. However, his intuition, honed by years of life and death situations, told him that danger was approaching. The cultivator patted his chest and a bronze bell appeared before him. Immediately, a yellow light began to gather within the bronze bell. The bronze bell then slowly rose up from the top of the cultivator's head. Once the yellow light descended, it would be able to protect the cultivator completely. That way, it would be difficult for the netherwater sword to launch another sneak attack on the cultivator. Lu Ping's eyes lit up. This was a pure spirit nurturing grade defensive magic treasure. This was a Debeo shell. Although Lu Ping also had a spirit nurturing grade Cloudlight 5 elemental robe, this magic treasure had many different functions. Although its defensive power was quite good, it was still weakened by its other functions. Furthermore, the Cloudlight 5 elemental robe was regarded by Lu Tianling and Lao Zhu as an inheritance token of the Zhonghua lineage, so it could not be owned by Lu Ping. Lu Ping had always wanted to find a suitable defensive magic treasure, but it was not easy to find a spirit-nurturing grade defensive magic treasure. Lu Ping had originally wanted to repair the water-controlling flag and restore its glory when it was in Jiao Yuqiang's hands. However, this hope was somewhat remote. The materials used to refine the water-controlling flag were extremely rare. Even now, Chunlian had not figured out what kind of materials were used to refine the flag. Furthermore, the refining method of the water-controlling flag was extremely unique. Even if he found the materials and managed to repair it, there would be no way for him to improve the water-controlling flag in the future. Lu Ping narrowed his eyes. Before the brass bell's yellow light descended, he formed a sword seal with his hand and abruptly sent it forward. Seeing that, the cultivator on the other side could finally sense an undercurrent surging before him. Not good. The cultivator hastily mobilized the brass bell above his head. At the same time, he attempted to retreat. However, it was too late. The Netheraqua sword, which was slowly making its way towards the cultivator, did not give him the chance to do so. The sword stabbed into the cultivator's heart. Next, with a twist, the core space shattered. Lu Ping's expression changed, and he quickly dashed towards the cultivator. But then, he saw a golden core suddenly fly out from the heart's core space that was pierced by the water nether sword. The copper bell above his head shone with a yellow light, protecting the golden core as it flew deeper into the fog. The faded autumn sword spun and unleashed a series of killer attacks. A ringing sound rang out, and the yellow light, descending from the brass bell, shook violently, becoming much sparser. In the end, However, it was still able to block Lu Ping's double-kill attack. The brass bell, protecting the gold core, flashed a few times within the thick fog. Just as Lu Ping was about to take action again, the brass bell had disappeared. Careless, Lu Ping was not upset that the cultivator had managed to escape. At any rate, the cultivator could not possibly know who he was. Even if this gold core could be reincarnated in the future, he would lose a great deal of his memories. Recovering his cultivation base to his current level would be even more difficult. It was a pity that Lu Ping didn't manage to get his hands on the Copper Bell mystic treasure. In a situation where the cultivator was only a golden core cultivator, the Copper Bell was still able to withstand his attack and protect its master. It was clear that the quality of the mystic treasure was extraordinary, which made Lu Ping very frustrated. After picking up the cultivator's storage magic treasure from the ground, Lu Ping revealed a slight smile. The cultivators who entered the fog array were all aiming for the sacred lake. Cultivating in seclusion there for 4 years could guarantee that their cultivation base would rise by at least 1 level. Therefore, every cultivator who entered brought most of their belongings with them. This 9th-stage core forging cultivator clearly wanted to use the sacred lake to refine a third-world spirit treasure and raise his cultivation base to the peak of the core forging stage. 2 sets of heaven-step, low-grade spirit treasures of the metal attribute. It seemed that this cultivator was very ambitious. If he could succeed, then it would be more than enough to refine a good 7th-stage gold core. Unfortunately, none of Lu Ping's spirit pets cultivated metal attribute spells, so he could not use the pair of heaven gold stones. There were more than 10 types of spirit pills needed by late core forging stage cultivators. Among them, there were quite a few that Lu Ping had only heard of, but he did not know how to refine. If he could enter the sacred lake this time, he would save himself the trouble of refining pills. After putting away the hundreds of high-grade spirit stones, he put the 3 top-grade spirit stones into a jade box that Lu Ping had specially prepared. Inside the box were dozens of top-grade spirit stones that Lu Ping had accumulated over the years. Many of them were obtained when he killed Qin Shui Laozu and Nanhua Laozu. However, most of them were given to Gua Tianshan Laozu. There were also many high-quality items left, but Lu Ping left them to Debao to deal with. He held one of the jade cards in his hand and played with it. A cultivator from the Western Wilderness Palace? It seems that my luck is really good. The Western Wilderness Palace was a large, established force like the Supreme Mystery Sect in the plain cultivation world. Just like the Yingtian sect in the past, the Western Wilderness Palace established their sect at the border between the Central Plains and the outer regions, as if they were hiding from something, including the Supreme Mystery Sect, which established their sect at the mouth of the Yulon River on the edge of the plain cultivation world. It seemed that these large, established forces were giving up the hinterland of the Central Plains. Chapter 766. Lu Ping walked through the fog for 3 days, and the throbbing in his blood became more and more intense. He was getting closer and closer to his destination. In these 3 days, Lu Ping finally understood why every time the river source opened, there would be heavy casualties among the cultivators heading to Sacred Lake of the Fallen Stars, but it still couldn't stop the endless stream of core forging realm cultivators from heading there. He had heard from the rumors that the reason was that many cultivators were competing for the 100 spots to enter the Sacred Lake. Now, Lu Ping finally understood that the fundamental reason was not this. Spending 4 to 5 years would definitely be able to improve one's cultivation by at least 1 level. Although the temptation was great, if cultivators had other fortuitous encounters, they might be able to improve their cultivation by 1 level in 4 to 5 years. There was no need to fight to the death for the 100 spots. But now, Lu Ping knew that because the Sacred Lake was an inevitability for cultivation advancement, most of the cultivators who came to the Sacred Lake to compete for the 100 spots had reached a bottleneck in their cultivation and could not break through. Just like the cultivator from the Western Wilderness Palace who died in the hands of Lu Ping, they wanted to break through the bottleneck of the 9th level of core forging and achieve a high-grade gold core to pave the way to the Dharma manifestation stage in the future. However, this bottleneck was tantamount to a moat for many cultivators. Many cultivators were blocked at this last step and could not advance an inch, and the sacred lake became their last hope for a breakthrough at this time. However, when they entered the fog array, they discovered that there were so many competitors. Moreover, in order to break through the bottleneck, almost everyone had brought all their belongings with them. Every one of them was a group of fat sheep that could not be fatter. As long as they killed one of them, they would be able to obtain almost all the cultivation resources that the cultivator had collected in his lifetime. Was there anything easier than this in the cultivation world? The naked temptation made every opening of the river source a bloody hunting game. Only the strongest and the most cunning could survive and enjoy the legacy left behind by Jiao Daoren. In just 3 short days, Lu Ping ambushed his opponents 4 times and successfully killed them twice. He was ambushed 3 times, and Lu Ping took advantage of the situation to counterattack. One of his opponents was killed by Lu Ping, another escaped with heavy injuries, and the last one was much more cunning. After missing his ambush, he immediately fled 1,000 miles away. The strength of these 3 people was not below that of the Western Wilderness Palace disciple who had died at the hands of Lu Ping. In fact, they were much stronger than that person. Otherwise, they would not have taken the initiative to attack others in the fog array. Under normal circumstances, even though these people were very strong and few of their peers could rival them, and in any sect, they were seen as potential talents who could become Dharma adepts. However, Lu Ping was confident that without the obstruction of the fog array, it was almost impossible for these people to escape from him, unless they had some life-saving items that they had obtained from Dharma adepts. Besides these, Lu Ping was also ambushed twice on the road. The first time, there were 3 people who ambushed Lu Ping, but in the end, Lu Ping killed one of them and broke out of the encirclement. The second time, there were 5 people who ambushed Lu Ping, and each of them was no weaker than Lu Ping. They were also very strong. Although Lu Ping had seriously injured 2 of them, he was also forced to a corner by the other 5. Lu Ping did not know how these people had gathered together in the fog array. Because of the fog array, he could not clearly see the strength of these people. In the future, unless he was able to personally fight with the people who ambushed him, he might be able to find out a thing or two from the way they attacked. Otherwise, all of this would be a mess. Although the journey was not peaceful, Lu Ping's spoils of war were enough to make him forget about the hidden dangers in the fog array. He even faintly felt the urge to be dominated by greed. Almost all the cultivators who could enter this place had brought their belongings with them. Every one of them was a big fat sheep. Besides the 2 low-grade heaven-level metal-type sky gold stones from the Western Wilderness Palace disciples that he had killed earlier, Lu Ping did not have the time to pick up one of the 4 cultivators he had killed afterward. Among the other 3, only 2 of them had reached the core forging stage. Lu Ping obtained 3 low-grade heaven-grade spirit items from the 2 9th-layer core forging realm cultivators. One was a wind elemental breeze bamboo, the other was a wood elemental e-wood, and the last one was a wood elemental spirit item called the dreamflower wood. The 2 wood-type heaven-grade spirit items had been found on the same cultivator. It was unknown if this cultivator already possessed 2 spirit items, or if this cultivator wanted to fuse the 2 spirit items, which were different, but of the same attribute. If it was the latter, the golden elixir formed after the fusion would be of a higher grade than if he had only condensed one of the 2 spiritual items. After the cultivator advanced to the Dharma stage, his abilities would also be stronger than those of the same level. However, because the 2 spiritual items were not the same, it would be almost impossible for him to advance to the mid-Dharma stage in the future. If this cultivator really wanted to smelt these 2 different spiritual items of the same element, then it meant that this cultivator had already given up hope that he would be able to survive the Thunder trial and advance to the mid-Dharma stage in the future. In addition to the 3 heaven-level spiritual items, Lu Ping also obtained a spirit nurturing treasure from the level 8 core forging stage cultivator. The 2 level 9 core forging stage cultivators did not have a spirit nurturing treasure. In fact, among the people Lu Ping had killed, the level 8 core forging stage cultivator was the strongest. This spirit nurturing treasure was a pearl that emitted a special kind of flame. Lu Ping examined it carefully. This flame was not a spiritual fire, nor was it a special kind of fire. It seemed to be a special kind of fire that had been smelted using a special method, and this pearl was the carrier of this special fire. This spirit-nurturing treasure reminded Lu Ping of the seven-colored flame that Mei Tianqin and Laozu had cultivated. It was also a special kind of fire, formed by the fusion of a few spiritual fires. However, this kind of fire was still a spiritual fire, and it was a mid-grade heaven-level fire. This kind of fire had lost all of its spirituality, but the power of this kind of fire was no less than a mid-grade heaven-level spiritual fire. After letting the 7-gem Thunder Calabash swallow the 2 mid-grade spiritual items, Lu Ping took the high-grade spirit stones, supreme-grade spirit stones, and some spiritual herbs that caught his eye. Then, he threw the 3 storage treasures into the golden house for Debao to deal with. At this time, Lu Ping suddenly felt that the surrounding fog array had begun to change. Just when Lu Ping was confused, his eyes suddenly lit up. He had actually walked out of the fog array and arrived at a flat area with lush water and grass. Lu Ping's divine sense moved and found that his divine sense was like a flood that had been released. With Lu Ping as the center, it suddenly flooded an area with a radius of more than 10 kilometers. The violent divine sense fluctuations brought about a gust of wind that swept out in all directions. Lu Ping was unable to rein in his divine sense in time. Thus, he could only allow his divine sense to wreak havoc. Next, however, he abruptly turned to look at a spot 2 to 3 li away to his right. There, he saw a cultivator with a look of ridicule on his face. However, there was a look of fear in his eyes. When the cultivator saw Lu Ping walk out from the fog array, he habitually spread his divine sense out, wanting to watch Lu Ping make a fool of himself. In the end, Lu Ping was indeed unable to rein in his divine sense in time and ended up making a fool of himself. However, in the face of Lu Ping's formidable divine sense, the cultivator could not find it funny at all. A chilling light flashed across Lu Ping's eyes, and he turned to look in several other directions. There were cultivators who had emerged from the fog array earlier and were waiting at the edges of the fog array. Additionally, when Lu Ping emerged from the fog array, all of them had turned their divine senses and gazes towards Lu Ping. Naturally, they had personally experienced the storm that Lu Ping's divine sense had brought about. The cultivators had originally planned on using their own divine sense to attack the moment Lu Ping's divine sense went out of control. However, the moment Lu Ping's divine sense went out of control, the situation took a sharp turn for the worse. The storm was simply too violent. Even though they wanted to add fuel to the fire, they had to first sit back and watch. Lu Ping cast a cold glance at them. The faces of the 2 cultivators closest to Lu Ping flickered. In the end, they stood up and moved further away from Lu Ping. They were using this show of weakness to express their apologies towards Lu Ping and their respect towards the strong. Lu Ping noticed that the cultivators who had emerged from the fog array did not move too far away from the fog array. Instead, they sat cross-legged with their backs against the fog array to cultivate themselves. Lu Ping's divine sense quickly sensed that there was an invisible wall tens of li away from them, blocking off his surging divine sense. The invisible wall stretched far into the distance to form a large isolation zone in the center of the fog array. Lu Ping and the other cultivators who had emerged from the fog array could only move about within the isolation zone. The reason why the cultivators were resting with their backs against the fog array was because they were fearful of being ambushed by others while moving about. Should someone have ill intentions, the cultivators could simply roll backwards and hide within the fog array. The space within the fog array was very peculiar. Lu Ping was simply incapable of getting his bearings. Once he entered the fog array, he would not even know where he was. 3 more days went by, and the number of cultivators emerging from the fog array grew. Using his divine sense, Lu Ping could sense that there were 20 to 30 late-stage core establishment cultivators gathered within a radius of tens of li. Even further away, Lu Ping's divine sense could sense an unknown number of cultivators emerging from the fog array. At the edge of the fog array, 7 to 8 li away from Lu Ping, the thick fog roiled and 4 cultivators emerged together. "Oh, we're finally out. 5th senior brother, it seems we are not too late. The cultivators in the fog array have yet to make a move. It seems the array wall has yet to disappear. Everyone is still waiting within the isolation zone." "Of course not. The inside of the fog array is a special space that does not differentiate between directions. In the world of cultivation, even the fastest cultivator to emerge from the fog array took 5 days to do so. We have only used 6 days in total. Compared to everyone here, we are already the fastest. Additionally, the fog array only activated 20 days ago. At present, we still have to wait for 10 more days before the invisible array wall will disappear. When that time comes, we will be able to head to the central area to find Sacred Lake Fall. The 4 cultivators who emerged from the thick fog were none other than the cultivators from the Western Desolation Palace that Lu Ping had encountered earlier. However, one of them had been killed by the Koi clan when he charged into the fog array. Thus, there were only 4 of them left. Lu Ping pondered the conversation between the 4 of them. Even the fastest cultivator to make it through the fog array would take at least 5 days. However, he had only used 3 days to get out. Chapter 767. Looking down from the sky, one would be able to see that the entire fog array occupied a radius of 500 kilometers. However, at the center of the fog array, within a radius of 50 kilometers, was a grassland that was not covered by the fog array. Within the grassland were lakes of varying sizes. These various sized pools of water formed the source of the Yulon River, and then they were securely protected by an invisible formation wall. As for the true sacred lake, it was hidden within the grass that surrounded the pool of water within a circumference of 100 kilometers. For some unknown reason, every time the river's source opened up, the distribution of the meadow and the lakes within a radius of 50 kilometers would undergo a complete change. Additionally, the location of the Sacred Fall Lake would also constantly change. Cultivators would have to search for the true location of the Sacred Fall Lake amidst the countless lakes of varying sizes. It was not an easy task. Clearly, the 4 cultivators from Western Desolation Palace were very familiar with the situation inside the fog array. They did not spread out their divine senses the moment they emerged. Instead, they ended up like Lu Ping, losing control over their divine senses. Although the 4 cultivators might not have entered the fog array before, there must have been senior cultivators from Western Desolation Palace who had entered the fog array before. They had recorded down all the matters to take note of and informed those who came after them. Thus, it was clear that the 4 cultivators from Western Desolation Palace were very familiar with the situation inside. During the past few days, Lu Ping had also encountered several cultivators who had just emerged from the fog array. Due to not knowing what was going on, they had completely unleashed their divine senses. Clearly, those cultivators did not possess the terrifying divine senses that Lu Ping possessed. Thus, they were ambushed by others. For the better ones, their divine senses were only damaged. Although it did affect their strength somewhat, it was not too serious. For the worse ones, they were grievously wounded and coughed out blood on the spot, suffering from backlash from their primary essence. Thankfully, the fact that they could make it out from the fog array meant that they were no pushovers. The moment they were ambushed, they had rolled to the back of the fog array to avoid getting beaten up. However, the fog array was not necessarily safe. Whether or not they could survive would depend on the will of the heavens. The cultivators from Western Desolation Palace quickly noticed Lu Ping. After receiving the reminder from his junior brother, 5th senior brother quickly turned to look at Lu Ping. At the same time, a hint of fear appeared in his eyes. The 5th senior brother seemed to hesitate for a moment, and then walked towards Lu Ping under the watchful eyes of the crowd. When the surrounding cultivators saw the 5th senior brother and the other 3, they all looked at Lu Ping with sympathy or gloating eyes. However, to everyone's disappointment, Lu Ping did not show the slightest sign of panic, nor did he turn around and retreat into the fog. Instead, he calmly sat cross-legged on the ground and cultivated his chi. However, these people immediately became even more excited. Even though the Western Desolate Palace was aggressively charging towards them, they were still calm and unhurried. At this moment, they were completely looking down on the Western Desolate Palace. Could it be that they were going to start a war? If that were to happen, it would be truly spectacular. Many of the cultivators who had distanced themselves from Lu Ping did so once again, fearful that the battle between the two sides would affect them. I am Zhang Jiming from the Western Wilderness Palace. How should I address you? The application form of the Western Wilderness Palace's fifth senior brother greatly disappointed the cultivators who wanted to watch a good show. At the same time, they also became very curious about Lu Ping's identity. Who was this person to be so respected by the Western Wilderness Palace's cultivators? Seeing the other party like this, Lu Ping naturally would not reach out and slap the smiling person. So, he cupped his hands and said, I am Lu Xinping from the North Sea. This is the first time I've traveled to the Western Wilderness. What happened before was a bit rash. Please forgive me, Brother Zhang. A North Sea cultivator? Not only did Lu Ping's identity greatly surprise the Western Wilderness Palace's senior brother Zhang and the others, even the surrounding cultivators who had been listening and were surprised. Some of the cultivators' faces even flashed with naked disdain. The North Sea's cultivation world was truly a remote and desolate place. This Zhang Jiming, a dignified Western Wilderness Palace's direct disciple, was actually so polite to this person. Was he not afraid of losing face for a large sect? Even the Western Wilderness Palace's disciples behind the fifth senior brother Zhang Jiming felt a bit embarrassed. One of the junior brothers said, Senior brother. Zhang Jiming naturally knew what his junior brother was going to say. So, he hurriedly raised his hand to stop him. Once again, he smiled at Lu Ping and said, It's fine. Didn't we also trick Brother Lu? But to be honest, Brother Lu's background is quite surprising. Lu Ping smiled noncommittally and didn't reply to her. Another junior brother next to him was a bit impatient and said with an annoyed expression, Humph, you sure are arrogant. Don't forget that you can't escape from junior brother Kai's death. Lu Ping's expression immediately turned cold. It was true that he wanted to use the 5 people from the Western Wilderness Palace to divert the attention of the Pegasus clan so that he could enter the fog formation. But he was seen through by the 5 people from the Western Wilderness Palace and used their own trick against Lu Ping. Lu Ping could only blame himself for not being smart enough. However, when the 5 people took the opportunity to enter the fog formation, they were attacked by the Koi clan. That had nothing to do with Lu Ping. Now, the Western Wilderness Palace's cultivators were blaming Lu Ping for their junior brother's death. That was just sophistry. Shut up. What are you saying? Junior brother Kai's death has nothing to do with Brother Lu. Zhang Jiming fiercely glared at the junior brother behind him. Then, he turned to Lu Ping and said, Junior brother Wu and junior brother Kai had the best relationship. Junior brother Kai's death made junior brother Wu a bit irrational. Please don't blame him, Brother Lu. Naturally, Lu Ping wouldn't offend the Western Wilderness Palace at this time. So, he nodded and said, It's fine. But what is Brother Zhang's purpose in coming here? Zhang Jiming laughed and said, You were able to escape unscathed from Ma Chengwang's hands. With such strength, if I don't come and make friends with you, then wouldn't I be too blind? As soon as Zhang Jiming's voice fell, the cultivators who had been secretly watching from afar revealed expressions of shock. Waves of whispers spread over. Lu Ping, Zhang Jiming, and the others were all extraordinary people. Naturally, these words stopped in their ears. What? This person was able to escape unscathed from Ma Chengwang? Look at him. He's only at the 8th layer of the core forging realm. This kind of strength. Bullsh *T. A poor cultivator from the North Sea could escape from Ma Chengwang's hands. It can't be that he saw Ma Chengwang from afar and ran away. Ma Chengwang was too lazy to chase after him. That's why he was able to escape. That's not necessarily true. Didn't you see who the person who said this is? He's the 5th disciple of the Western Wilderness Palace. How could he lie? I still don't believe it. Who is Ma Chengwang? He's someone who has mastered the seed of the divine power and has mastered the natural mystique. Moreover, it's said that the natural mystique he has mastered is one of the most powerful techniques of the Tenma people, the sky-piercing thrust. With this level of cultivation and strength, even among Dharma adepts of the same level, other than the direct disciples of the 5 holy lands, Lu Xinping is almost invincible. How is this possible? Lu Ping didn't care about what the others were saying. Seeing that the cultivator from the Western Wilderness Palace was so straightforward, A smile appeared on his face. He said, Ma Chengwang? The cultivator from the Heavenly Horse clan who chased after me? I'm no match for that person. I was just lucky enough to escape. After all, I wasn't far from the fog array, so I escaped when he wasn't paying attention. Lu Ping's casual words caused Zhang Jiming's face to fill with bitterness. For a core forging adept to escape from Ma Qingwang, who was at the Dharma stage, how much luck did he have to be to escape? However, Zhang Jiming naturally wouldn't say it out loud. Instead, he said softly, Brother Lu, do you know who Ma Qingwang is? Before entering the fog array, Lu Ping had exchanged names with this Dharma adept of the Pegasus clan and found out that his name was Ma Qingwang. He also found out from the Green Hill Foxes that this Ma Qingwang was the third brother of Ma Qinxi, who he wanted to kill this time. The Ma clan's 5 Qin were the 5 children of the leader of the Pegasus clan. However, he didn't know how strong these 5 people were. Lu Ping's heart skipped a beat. Perhaps he could learn something from this person in front of him. Thus, he asked in confusion, it seems that Brother Zhang knows a lot about this Ma Qingwang. I wonder if it's convenient for you to explain it to me? It's not a big deal. Many people in the Western Wilderness know about the Ma clan's 5 Qin. I'm afraid that only Brother Lu, who comes from a different world of practitioners, would not be familiar with this. The Ma clan's 5 Qin could be said to be the representative of the most outstanding disciples of the Pegasus clan. Among the 5 siblings, the eldest, Ma Qinyang, had the highest level of practice. It was said that he was at the peak of the early Dharma stage, and he was already in seclusion in preparation for his tribulation. The second brother, Ma Qinshuang, was a female practitioner who had also reached the Dharma stage. However, unlike the eldest brother and the third brother, Ma Qinshuang did not condense a powerful magical seed at the same time as they reached the Dharma stage. Thus, the power of her natural magical seed was not very strong. However, it was said that it had many other uses. The third brother, Ma Qingwang, was currently the strongest among the Ma clan's 5 Qin. Even Ma Qinyang, who was about to reach the mid-Dharma stage, might not be his match. The main reason for this was that Ma Qingwang's natural magical seed was actually the famous sky-piercing thrust of the Pegasus clan. Of course, the Pegasus clan was the direct descendant of Jiao Daoren. After tens of thousands of years of accumulation, it was impossible for them to only have a few great spells that were comparable to the sky-piercing thrust. However, the difference between the sky-piercing thrust and other great spells was that after this spell was created, it had been perfected and improved by several generations of Pegasus practitioners. On the basis of the sky-piercing thrust, they had created another supreme spell, the sky-piercing thrust. If one wanted to learn the supreme sky-piercing thrust, then the sky-piercing thrust was a great spell that the practitioner had to master. Ma Qingwang had successfully condensed the sky-piercing thrust when he reached the Dharma stage. It was obvious that he was aiming for the supreme sky-piercing thrust. Once he reached the mid-Dharma stage, he would be able to raise the quality of his magical seed, and the sky-piercing thrust would become the sky-piercing thrust. Then, Ma Qingwang would be able to stand up to the direct practitioners of the 5 Holy Lands. Although Ma Qingwang was well known in the Western Wilderness, when compared to his fourth brother, Ma Qinxi, he seemed to be overtaken by the latecomers. Ma Qinxi was known as the #1 genius of the Pegasus clan in 1,000 years. From birth until now, he had only trained for 150 years and had already reached the 9th level of the core forging stage. Although such a fast training speed was rare, it was not unheard of in the world of practitioners. However, to be able to maintain such a strong foundation under such a fast training speed, and to be able to strengthen the foundation even more, it could be said that in the world of practitioners, there were only a few who could do so. However, this fourth young master was good at many things, except for one thing. He was lustful. However, this was nothing in the eyes of others. In the world of practitioners, there were countless women who were willing to train for the fourth young master's status as a member of the Pegasus clan. However, there were only a few who could catch the attention of the fourth young master. This time, it was said that the fourth young master, Ma Qinxi, was leading the Pegasus clan into the river source. The fourth young master had also announced that this time, He was here to advance to the peak of the core forging stage and condense a 9th-level golden core. Chapter 768. Condense a 9th-grade golden core. So, this 4th young master Ma Chinsi is carrying an upper-grade heaven step spiritual object? I just don't know what kind of cultivation method this 4th young master is practicing. Lu Ping asked casually as if nothing had happened. Tema people, as the direct descendants of Zhao Daoren, are naturally born with the blood of the flood dragon. It is said that there are 3 major direct cultivation methods and 13 true cultivation methods. There are many overlaps, but only the 13 true cultivation methods can be recorded in the inheritance memory of the Tenma people. Of course, the inheritance memory can naturally record more than just cultivation methods. This 4th young master Ma is practicing the heavenly horse galloping art of the 3 major direct cultivation methods. It is a wind attribute direct cultivation method. As for the upper grade heaven step spiritual object, there should be no doubt about it. I think with 4th young master Ma's ambition, he will not smelt 3 kinds of middle grade heaven step spiritual objects to barely reach the 9th grade golden core, right? Zhang Jiming paused. His eyes slightly swept around the cultivators who were spying on the 2 people with divine thoughts and sneered. But what is this spiritual object? I am afraid only 4th young master Ma himself knows. Lu Ping's divine thoughts immediately noticed that after Zhang Jiming's words, the aura of the surrounding cultivators stagnated for a moment, and the atmosphere of the entire river source suddenly became strange. Interesting, listening to Zhang Jiming's tone, there seemed to be a hidden intention to incite. Then Lu Ping's inquiry to reveal Ma Chinsi's background was obviously meant to be heard by others. This 4th young master not only has a high cultivation base, but his magical powers and spells are also exquisite. It is said that he has already achieved as many as 5 great magical powers and spells. As for the other magical powers and spells that are not great magical powers, but the power is not less than great magical powers, he has nearly 10 kinds. As Lu Ping listened to Zhang Jiming reveal Ma Chinsi's background, he compared himself with the best disciples of the central region. The so-called spells that had the power of great magical powers, but did not belong to the category of great magical powers, actually referred to the fact that the power of the spells was not the same. However, the true great magical powers could be used to condense the seed of magical powers when a cultivator advanced to the Dharma phase, becoming their own magical powers. Other spells might have the power of great magical powers, but they could not condense the seed of magical powers when they were at the Dharma phase, just like the Qi in Lu Ping's hand. This was originally a small magical power swordsmanship that Lu Ping got from the Koi clan, but now in Lu Ping's hands, the power was no less than a great magical power. However, when Lu Ping was ready to advance to the Dharma phase, he wanted to condense the magical power seed and become his own magical power. The Qi and sword was not enough. This 4th young master has countless magical treasures. It is said that he has at least 3 spirit-nurturing magical treasures, 1 for attack, 1 for defense, and 1 for transportation, all of excellent quality. In addition, there is even a rumor that the Tenma people deeply love 4th young master Ma, and in order to prevent 4th young master Ma from suffering an accident, they even gave him a spiritual treasure. What? A spiritual treasure? Impossible. That's too wasteful. Why is it impossible? As the saying goes, rich and powerful families are spoiled. The Tenma people are considered to be orthodox, rich, and powerful families in the cultivation world, and their strength is no less than the large sects in the central region. This 4th young master Ma is the proud son of the Pegasus clan, so it makes sense that the elders of the clan gave him a spiritual treasure to prevent accidents. But it is true that this 4th young master Ma has always been generous. It is said that when he cultivates, he sets up a spirit gathering formation with a top-grade spirit stone as the core and dozens of top-grade spirit stones as the support. Every time he cultivates, he consumes a large amount of cultivation resources. With such conditions, it is hard for him to not improve his cultivation. How could he have so many spirit stones? He's only at the core forging stage, and he's already using top-grade spirit stones to cultivate. I only have 200 top-grade spirit stones on me. According to his cultivation method, I'll become a pauper in less than a year. The Tenma people are rich and overbearing. It is said that in recent years, one of the 3 royal clans in the West Wilderness, the Hanging Eyes White-Fronted Tiger tribe, has declined, while the Pegasus clan is thriving. A large spirit stone mine controlled by the Tiger tribe was seized by the Tenma people. In the process of fighting for this large spirit stone mine, it is said that this 4th young Master Ma made a great contribution to the Tenma people, even though he is only at the core forging stage. He alone was rewarded by the Lao Tzu of the Tenma people, so he naturally does not have to worry about spirit stones. The Hanging Eyes White-Fronted Tiger tribe has declined? How is that possible? The Hanging Eyes White-Fronted Tiger tribe was the king of the West Wilderness. The Tenma people have occupied another large spirit stone mine? Doesn't this mean that the Tenma people have occupied 2 complete large spirit stone mines? It seems that the rise of the Tenma people is inevitable. Is there going to be a race like the green sea snake among the descendants of the Jiao, which is comparable to the Holy Land? The news spread from Zhang Jiming's side. Then, as though it had grown wings, it spread to the cultivators who had already walked out of the fog array and were resting in the isolation zone. Additionally, as the news spread, the information became more and more complicated. None of these cultivators who could break through the obstruction of the Pegasus and Koi clans and walk out of the fog array were easy to deal with. Under the inadvertent observation of Lu Ping, there were at least several cultivators and groups of cultivators who had already revealed fierce expressions, as if they were planning something. However, although the 4 young masters of the Pegasus clan were rich, they were the pride of the Pegasus clan after all. Those who could come here were all intelligent people. If they were not completely confident, they would naturally not poke the hornet's nest. At this moment, there was a sudden commotion in the isolation zone far away. Lu Ping, Zhang Jiming, and the others were startled. When they looked up into the distance, they saw that there seemed to be a group of people rushing over. Many cultivators in the isolation zone had conflicts with this group of people. Unfortunately, it seemed that they did not gain any advantage. A few unlucky ones were directly killed, and the luckier ones turned over and re-entered the fog array. When they came out again, no one knew when they would come out again. When they got closer, Zhang Jiming's expression changed. Lu Ping saw it clearly and hurriedly asked, "Brother Zhang, is there something wrong?" Zhang Jiming forced a smile, but junior brother Kai, who was beside him, muttered, "He's here just like that." Lu Ping's expression froze. He saw that the group of people from before had already approached them. The one in front was a cultivator who looked to be about the same age as Lu Ping. He originally looked extremely handsome, but his long face greatly reduced his outer appearance. Looking at the surrounding cultivators, who were trying to avoid them, the identity of the person who had come was naturally obvious. "I heard that someone is inciting other cultivators to surround and attack this young master, so that they can divide up the good things on this young master's body." This young master was excited to see who it was, so he wanted to see who it was that had such a refined interest. "I never thought that it would actually be Senior Brother Zhang of the Western Wasteland Palace. What, could it be that all of the Western Wasteland Palace have become roundworms, hiding in other people's stomachs and doing things that can't be seen in the light? You, Junior Brother Kai, don't be impatient." Zhang Jiming raised his hand and knocked away Junior Brother Kai's arm that was pointing at the person, then said to the person who came, "4th young Master Ma, we're just having a casual chat. 4th young Master Ma's reputation has spread far and wide, so we naturally talk a little more. What, is it that the Pegasus clan is so tyrannical that they don't even allow people to speak?" Lu Ping calmly looked at the 4th young Master Ma Chinsi in front of him, who was also the person whom Qing Hu repeatedly told him to kill. Gradually, there was a trace of vigilance in his eyes. Lu Ping glanced in other directions, but in his heart, he thought, "This person is not simple. He hides far deeper than I thought." Ma Chinsi glanced at Lu Ping beside Zhang Jiming. Although Lu Ping's identity as a North Sea cultivator surprised him a little, it was just pure curiosity. Then Ma Chinsi completely ignored Lu Ping as a chess piece used by Zhang Jiming. Ma Chinsi fixed his eyes on Zhang Jiming and suddenly burst into laughter. Revealing his arrogance, "Zhang Jiming, It's fine if Zhang Zichang, Hua Zhishi, and Tao Zhikai said this in front of me today. Even Dong Zhifei doesn't dare to speak like this in front of me. Who do you think you are? You actually dare to be on equal footing with me. The previously cultured and elegant fourth young master Ma suddenly had a drastic change in demeanor. This made Lu Ping's fear of this fourth young master increase by a level. Zhang Jiming didn't think that Ma Qinxi would turn hostile and humiliate him like this. His face flushed red. Junior brother Kai beside him couldn't stand it anymore and said loudly, Ma Qinxi, you haven't even achieved the Dharma stage. What qualifications do you have to be compared with the top 3 direct disciples of our sect? Even fourth senior brother Dong Zhifei will achieve the Dharma stage soon. The person who doesn't have the qualifications is you. Ma Qinxi looked at junior brother Kai, who was refuting, and laughed more and more strangely. After junior brother Kai finished speaking in a moment of anger, he uneasily moved back a few times. Ma Qinxi's face suddenly became funny, as if he couldn't help it. His long face suddenly rose and then suddenly fell down. Achoo! A loud sneeze flew towards junior brother Kai. It was as if a sudden clap of thunder had exploded in everyone's ears, causing their ears to buzz. A few of the weaker disciples who were watching the show were so scared that they almost peed their pants. When everyone looked up, a scene that made people want to laugh, but they couldn't laugh at all, appeared in front of everyone. Junior brother Kai was blown back by Ma Qinxi's big sneeze. Without waiting for Zhang Jiming to rescue him, junior brother Kai, with a bloody nose and a swollen face, had already smashed into the fog array. It was unknown whether he could return after the array wall at the river source was opened. Fourth young master Ma, don't you think you've gone too far? Zhang Jiming flew into a rage out of humiliation, but he didn't dare to make the slightest move. Not to mention that there were more than 20 Timma people following behind Ma Qinxi. He was not even Ma Qinxi's opponent alone. This Ma Qinxi's strength was actually so profound. Shallow. Ma Qinxi really didn't put Zhang Jiming in her eyes. She looked at Zhang Jiming up and down with her peripheral vision, then turned to leave after throwing down these 2 words. Brother Ma, whose child are you venting your anger on? Aren't you afraid of getting the reputation of bullying the weak? Everyone looked towards the person who spoke with a strange expression and saw a similar group of more than 20 people rushing towards Ma Qinxi. The person at the front was covered in gold from head to toe, but didn't have the slightest bit of the stench of a nouveau riche. Instead, it set off his luxurious temperament. Chapter 769. I was wondering who it was. So it's Brother Li Tong. Brother Li Tong, why are you late this time? The array wall is about to open. If Brother Li Tong doesn't participate, this trip to the sacred fall lake will be boring. After Ma Qinxi saw the person who came, a solemn look flashed in his eyes, but he spoke carelessly. Boring? I don't think it's boring. Don't you think that after our 2 clans surrounded the river source, not only did the number of cultivators entering the river source not decrease, instead, everyone believes that our 2 clans have found some sort of treasure inside the river source. Or perhaps we are plotting something. Due to that, even more cultivators are coming. When the time comes, you and I will definitely not be bored. The tone of the young cultivator in gold, who was the leader, was a little solemn. Why? The dignified direct disciple of the Koi clan, Brother Li Tong, who is known as the Sword of the Skygate, actually has a time when you are worried. Is it because of these people around you? These people may be considered important among the cultivators of the same level in the cultivation world, but in our eyes, no matter how many people there are, they are just clay chickens and pottery dogs. Ma Qinxi continued spouting out arrogant words. She pointed at the surrounding cultivators, including the 3 remaining cultivators from Western Wilderness Palace and Lu Ping. Then, she unleashed a barrage of verbal attacks. The surrounding cultivators looked at Ma Qinxi with a dark expression. What? You're still not convinced? If you have the guts, come out and fight me now. Don't think that I don't know that the kid from the Western Wilderness Palace just pointed at my head just now. Have you guys not thought of fighting me? I'll say it here today. I do have a lot of treasures on me. Those who can survive under me can come and snatch them. Ma Qinxi slanted her eyes and looked at those cultivators who were filled with righteous indignation turning into cowards under her ridicule and ridicule. Thus, she laughed coldly and said to Li Tong, "They are all people who bully the weak and fear the strong. Even if there are more of them, what's the use? They won't be able to achieve anything big. Even if it's the Western Desolation Palace this time, isn't it the same as the one in front of us? Compared to the Western Desolation 3 Chronicles, it's really nothing." Zhang Jiming's face was gloomy, and his eyes stared at Ma Qinzi like a snake or a scorpion. He pointed at Ma Qinzi's nose to humiliate him, but he couldn't make a sound at this time. Ma Qinzi saw that Zhang Jiming's face was as pale as a corpse. Ma Qinzi found it more and more interesting and involuntarily laughed. However, she heard a faint voice beside her. "Don't blame me for not telling you. Ziyang Palace's Shaozi sword is also here." Ma Qinzi's strange laughter abruptly stopped. Why did she react so strongly, as if she had suffered some great humiliation after hearing Xie Tianyang's name? Lu Ping's words really made Zhang Jiming, who had sunk into a shadow, clear his mind. He reluctantly smiled at Lu Ping, and then, as if he had thought of something, a vengeful sneer appeared on his face. "I remember, this Ma Qinzi encountered Xie Tianyang on the grasslands. The two of them had a great battle, and at that time, Ma Qinzi lost by one move and was beaten back to her original state by Xie Tianyang. No wonder. This Ma Qinzi seems to want to get back at the place of the river source. He must get back at her," Zhang Jiming sneered. At that time, Ma Qinzi was defeated and turned into the original form of a Pegasus and was ridden by Xie Tianyang on his back. It can be said to be a great humiliation. But when these things happened, the two of them had just advanced to the core forging stage and had not become famous yet. After that, the two of them never mentioned this matter. The forces behind the two of them also seemed to be unwilling to anger each other, so this matter was not spread out. Lu Ping asked curiously, "Then how did Brother Zhang know about this?" Zhang Jiming smiled proudly, then as if he had thought of something, he immediately put away his smile, glanced at Lu Ping, and said unhappily, "It's better for Brother Lu not to know what you shouldn't know. Be careful of your own life." Lu Ping waved his hand and hurriedly said, I don't dare. I just find it strange that this Ma Qinzi suffered such humiliation, but still became brave and made such a great reputation. Now he obviously wants to defeat Xie Tianyang and wash away his own humiliation. It can be seen that this Ma Qinzi is not only talented, but also a person with a firm will. The more he is defeated, the braver he becomes. Zhang Jiming's expression shook. Seeing that he understood the meaning of his words, Lu Ping said, "Brother Zhang, you must not be depressed." Zhang Jiming looked gratefully at Lu Ping and said, "Thank you, Brother Lu. In the future, when Brother Lu travels and passes by the Western Wasteland Palace, you must come to visit me. I will definitely welcome you." Although Zhang Jiming had cheered up on the surface, Lu Ping still saw a trace of self-confidence in Zhang Jiming's eyes. However, there was no other way. Lu Ping could only do this. The rest depended on Zhang Jiming himself. Over the next few days, more and more cultivators gathered at the quarantine zone. The number of cultivators there was already close to 1,000. Additionally, most of them were late-stage core forging cultivators. Even so, despite having so many people gathered together, they were able to live in harmony. However, this tranquility was like the calm before a storm. As the array walls were activated, this tranquility would inevitably be broken. Lu Ping had been quietly meditating and cultivating these days. After the opening of the array wall, there would inevitably be a fierce battle. Lu Ping must adjust his own state to the best. An invisible wave came and was immediately captured by Lu Ping's divine sense. Lu Ping's divine sense condensed into a hammer and suddenly hit the array wall in front of him. The sound of shattering immediately resounded in the air. The cultivators who were in silence immediately opened their eyes. Their burning gaze even made the space in front of them feel like it was suddenly lit up. Countless divine senses rushed towards the array wall in front of them from different directions. The entire array wall suddenly became shaky, which made the surrounding cultivators more and more excited. Many cultivators had already lit up under their feet, ready to rush into the river's source the moment the array wall broke. They wanted to seize the opportunity to find the sacred lake. The array wall was like a big eggshell, enveloping the river's source, making it impossible for anyone to approach. However, after the array wall was broken by the divine senses of nearly 1,000 cultivators, nearly 1,000 divine senses rose into the air and rushed towards the river source together. This scene was even more imposing than when the 18 sects of the Hebei cultivation world entered the Yingyu swamp. Lu Ping sat cross-legged on the ground. Although he was almost the first to notice the change in the array wall, he did not rush into the river source like everyone else. The moment the array wall was broken, Lu Ping's bloodline felt more than twice as strong as before. Lu Ping was almost unable to suppress the throbbing in his bloodline. At that moment, Lu Ping's golden core began to spin rapidly. The rich Dan Xia shrouding the core space was refined by the golden core, and it suddenly became thin. Lu Ping could clearly feel that his cultivation had made significant progress after the golden core refined and absorbed part of the Dan Xia. The 8 strange dragons on the surface of the golden core roared in unison. This time, it was not as silent as before. Lu Ping could clearly feel a strange chant. It was because of this chant that Lu Ping's bloodline suddenly got rid of the temptation from the river source that could trigger a mutation in Lu Ping's bloodline. There were no longer any cultivators in the isolation zone. Lu Ping stood up and followed the mysterious force towards the river source. He could feel that he was getting closer and closer to the mysterious force. At that moment, the lake of the fallen sage had yet to appear at the source of the river, but the cultivators searching for it had already started fighting among themselves. The roars caused by the battle were heard one after another. The screams of the cultivators after they were seriously injured and before they died were heard one after another. The entire river source instantly became a battlefield. Chapter 770. There were only 100 spots in the sacred lake of sunset. Every cultivator who wanted to enter the sacred lake of sunset did not do so for the sake of improving their cultivation base. For the 5 years of cultivation retreat was enough for every cultivator to have sufficient cultivation materials on them. Whether it was for the 100 places or for the rich cultivation resources on the others, it was enough to trigger a large-scale battle between nearly 1,000 cultivators at the river source. Large-scale magic spells were quickly cast. In this kind of attack that almost left no blind spots, any cultivator who wanted to dodge with exquisite escape techniques would face the danger of being beaten up by the crowd once they were forced out. Therefore, Lu Ping wisely adopted a head-on approach. Preserving strength in a chaotic battle was simply courting death. A triangular black flag hung high above Lu Ping's head, and a purple light curtain hung down, protecting Lu Ping in the center. A 5-colored chiffon was faintly discernible on his body, and a pair of flying swords hovered around him. He was using the stone-piercing sword technique, which was most suitable for advancing in a group battle. With the support of Lu Ping's spiritual essence that was far superior to ordinary people, Lu Ping could be said to be invincible among the magic spells flying all over the sky. He went on a rampage all the way, following the direction of the source of the mysterious power towards the depths of the river source. There were at least hundreds of small ponds in the river source that were divided by the meadow. Even a small pond the size of a palm could be the space inside the sacred lake. Therefore, although the cultivators who had rushed into the river source were killing each other to reduce the number of competitors entering the sacred lake, they also had to investigate which of these small ponds, and lakes was the sacred lake and which was the space inside. Lu Ping did not have these concerns at all. Although he did not know if the mysterious power that had lured him out was in the sacred lake, Lu Ping would not hesitate to abandon the sacred lake if the mysterious power was not in it. All the attacks that were intended to kill Lu Ping were blocked, and all the enemies in front of Lu Ping were killed, repelled, and frightened away by Lu Ping's swordsmanship that was like quicksilver flowing on the ground and the Milky Way heavenly generals. At this time, Lu Ping was not in the mood to kill people to seize the spoils of war and reduce the number of competitors. Under such circumstances, Lu Ping did not dare to stop at all. Once he stopped, he might fall into a fierce battle with the surrounding cultivators, or even be surrounded and killed. Even if he broke out of the encirclement, It was very likely that the source of the mysterious power would be taken by someone else. He only wanted to get to the source of the mysterious power that affected his bloodline as soon as possible. Therefore, after the cultivators who blocked Lu Ping were repelled and injured by Lu Ping no longer paid attention to them. He only focused on moving in the direction of the mysterious power. Lu Ping did not care about the attacks from the sides and behind him. He only used the purple light curtain hanging down from the water-controlling flag to block them. On the purple light curtain, bowl-sized refinement flowers swam continuously, dissolving these tyrannical spells into nothingness. Occasionally, a powerful cultivator or a few cultivators would join forces to launch a sneak attack and penetrate the protection of the water-controlling flag in one fell swoop. However, before everyone could rejoice, a 5-colored light rose from Lu Ping's body. Then, these spells plunged into it and disappeared without a trace. Who is this person? How can he have such a magical power? Seeing his great magical power easily dispelled by the 5-colored light, and seeing the cultivator in front of him being swept away by this person's sword technique that was like a flood, the cultivator quickly retreated. This person was definitely not someone he could afford to offend. Right now, he did not want to fight with others. Once he came back to settle the score, he would definitely be the one who died. Xie Tianyang, this person must be Xie Tianyang. Otherwise, how could he have such a powerful sword technique and such an exquisite protective magic treasure? Yes, I heard that Xie Tianyang also entered the river source this time. This person must be Xie Tianyang. Let's retreat quickly. We can't afford to offend this person. If you don't want to die, quickly retreat. Xie Tianyang, my ass. Xie Tianyang has always used a single sword. When have you heard of him using 2 flying swords? Besides, this person clearly has a water attribute sword technique. Xie Tianyang cultivates the Heavenly Fire Sun sword art. The Heavenly Fire Sun sword in his hand can turn 100 feet of swamp into a desert. No matter how powerful Xie Tianyang is, he can't cultivate water and fire at the same time. Yes, so this person is not Xie Tianyang. Brothers, how about we join forces and take him down? Just look at the magic treasures in his hand. They are not ordinary. If you want to go, go. If you want to go, then go. Look at this person's strength. Since entering the river source, there have been dozens of people who have attacked him, but 2 of them have died in his hands, and more than 10 have been lightly injured by a single blow. The others have all retreated after seeing that the situation was not good. Fortunately, this person did not turn around to chase after them, otherwise more people would have died. Yes, how can the force behind a disciple with such strength be small? Even if it can't be compared to Ziyang Palace, it should be comparable to Pegasus, Koi, and Western Wasteland Palace. Don't provoke this evil star. Let him go and harm others. Lu Ping's 2 flying swords vibrated, and the expressions of the 2 late core forging cultivators who wanted to stop Lu Ping changed. Without waiting for them to retreat, a strange true essence flowed through their blood vessels and into the core space. Rumble. The core space was like a reef that had been hit by a huge wave. Although it had blocked the attack, the loud sound that only the 2 of them could hear still made them dizzy. The 2 of them involuntarily flew backwards. When they opened their eyes, Lu Ping had already passed between them and continued to fly towards the depths of the river source. The 2 of them looked at each other in shock, and there was a burst of fear in their hearts. If Lu Ping had stopped at that time to attack them, the 2 of them would have no chance of surviving. Lu Ping's sword slashed away the 2 people who blocked his way, and his vision suddenly became clear. Only then did he realize that there were no cultivators around who dared to come forward to stop him. He could not help but feel happy, and a heroic spirit rushed up, and he could not help but laugh loudly. No, isn't this the North Sea cultivator that Zhang Jiming from Western Wasteland Palace met? What did he say about Lu Ping? That's right. Zhang Jiming said that he once escaped from Ma Chengwang's clutches and broke into the fog array. What kind of person is Ma Chengwang? He has condensed a top-notch natal great magical power. He is an invincible existence in the early Dharma stage. Even the other 5 swords of the Ziyang Palace can fight him. North Sea, What kind of joke is that? What kind of good people can come from that barren place? Oh, right. This person can't be acting with Zhang Jiming, right? This person can't be used by Western Wasteland Palace to deceive people, right? After all, Zhang Jiming is still lacking compared to people like Ma Qinxi, Li Tong, and Xie Tianyang. Lu Ping's rampage made the surrounding cultivators around him calm down, but immediately everyone fell into a state of mutual vigilance. On the other side of the river source, 3 cultivators watched as Lu Ping broke out of the encirclement with unparalleled might. They stood there and stared at Lu Ping's back with a long face. This is the human cultivator that 3rd young master told 4th young master to pay attention to? That's him. It's a pity that when 4th young master found Zhang Jiming, I hadn't walked out of the fog array, so I didn't have time to inform 4th young master. At that time, although the surrounding people already knew from Zhang Jiming that this person escaped from 3rd young master, they wouldn't tell 4th young master for no reason. Let's follow him and see his strength, then we'll tell 4th young master. I don't know why 4th young master chased us out, but he is acting alone. Is he really not afraid of people coveting his treasures and ganging up on him? Silence. 4th young master has a secret mission from the clan leader, and it's not something we can know. Do you really think that the Tenma people and the Koi clan block the periphery of the fog array to control the number of cultivators entering the river source? That's right. The 2 clans have such a large force, but now there are still nearly 1,000 cultivators breaking out of the encirclement and entering the river source. How is this possible? Lu Ping could sense that he was getting closer and closer to the source of the mysterious power in the river source, but he had already discovered that there were several people following behind him. Lu Ping rushed forward like a hurricane, and it was difficult for him not to attract attention. A white ball of light flew towards Lu Ping with a strange whistling sound, but Lu Ping seemed to be prepared for it. The 2 flying swords turned into a spiral sword light and strangled the white ball of light. Chi-chi. Sparks flew in all directions, and a hot white flame suddenly exploded in the air. The scorching white flame raged in all directions, and the grassland within a radius of several tens of feet was completely turned into ashes. Thick white mist rose from more than a dozen ponds and lakes, and the strong airwaves pushed Lu Ping, who was flying forward, in the opposite direction. Although Lu Ping had already discovered that someone was ambushing him, he was confident that he could completely resolve the attack without any hindrance, and then break out of the encirclement with ease. However, he did not expect that the strength of the person was so strong. Although Lu Ping resolved the oncoming attack unscathed, his figure was blocked, and he fell right into the ambusher's trap. Just as Lu Ping stabilized his figure in midair, a burly giant jumped out from the left in front of him, holding a giant long saber, and fiercely chopped down towards Lu Ping. A pale white saber light flew out and chopped towards Lu Ping's left arm. The Pegasus clan. Lu Ping fiercely spat out a few words. At the same time, a long thorn suddenly appeared on the right side of Lu Ping. It was the flying thorn refined from the horn of the Pegasus clan, which had left a deep impression on Lu Ping, and it went straight towards Lu Ping's core space. In Lu Ping's divine sense, there were 2 more cultivators who had taken the opportunity to ambush him behind, and they were waiting for him to make a move, and then they would attack his back. For a moment, the 5 late core forging cultivators of the Tenma people gathered together, and they set up an ambush on all sides, and joined forces to besiege Lu Ping. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.